Hello everybody and welcome back to the Damage Report. Not just any day though, not just any big news day. It's hashtag Big Fran Wednesdays because we've got Francesca Fiorentini. So big, she couldn't fit in her regular apartment. She's in a new location, we don't know where.
Undisclosed.
Francesca, we're very glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you so much once again, Dragon Squad, for allowing me into your lair. What's up? Nothing. Wednesdays suck, guys. Wednesdays, there's way too much happening on a Wednesday. I prefer Monday. Yeah. Just a slow jog of a news. Now it's just like, oh God.
Yeah, Monday's mostly BS, honestly. Let's keep it real, okay, yeah. At long last, mostly BS. Wednesdays though, oh God, so much news. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Could we just not? We just not do it? Do we have to? I mean, I get that like we have to talk for the next 90 minutes, but Francesca, how much trouble would we actually get in if we did not talk about the news at all in the next 90 minutes?
Well, we'd probably end up talking about something else news adjacent, which would be like, that would disappoint us. We would disappoint ourselves. We're like, we're gonna talk about movies. JK, let's talk about Nina Turner, you know? Yeah.
Can we talk about the new season of the movies that made us? Very much enjoyed it. Anyway, the last episode of John Oliver about housing discrimination. It's pretty good. Go watch it. Anyway, I guess we'll do the news. I suppose people will rebel or whatever. But anyway, thank everybody for being here. I'm John Iadarola. Yeah, I know some people are saying they're dissatisfied that my purple hair is not purple enough. It's like take it up with my hair, man.
Wait, you've got purple hair?
Department of Follicles. What's that?
What did I miss? What the hell?
You've missed the whole thing. Well, I'll catch you up during a break or something. But anyway, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already. We've got a lot of news. Obviously, we're gonna be starting off with yesterday's special election, but eventually we'll be getting into the eviction moratorium, Andrew Cuomo. Chris Cuomo also has problems though. So there's problems for the entire Cuomo plan. Oh my God, has Cuomo come to mean problem? Oh geez, okay, that would be unfortunate for them. But anyway, aside from that, if you don't want to get vaccinated, what can you do? Maybe get a fake arm. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later on too. There's a lot that we're gonna be talking about. And if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, anything like that, you can send us comments, tweets, super chats, all that, and we'll respond as we go through. With that said, Francesca, are you ready to get this thing going?
Molti Cuomi, tanti Cuomi.
We still have a little bit of time.
Piacere. Okay, sorry, yes.
Anyway, feel free to just do your Greta. Anyway, with that, let's jump right into this. So everybody, prepare yourself. It's not gonna be fun to start off with, but let's jump right into this video.
Fighting for that America here in Ohio and in every state in this country have been on a long justice journey through a desert of despair, indifference, inequality, and racism. Tonight, my friends, we have looked across the promised land, but for this campaign, on this night, we will not cross the river. Tonight, our justice journey continues, and I am proud to continue that journey with each and every one of you.
So that was in what I hope is the most depressing news of the week, but the week's not done. Who knows? The concession speech of Nina Turner, who unfortunately came up short in her bid in the primary for Ohio's 11th district. We're gonna bring up the results here, and you'll see that the establishment-backed, Democratic Party-backed Shontel Brown came up with a few percentage points more. Let's see, it's 4,200 votes. Out of those 7,500, a depressingly thin margin. And Nina Turner, who is obviously a fighter, we've had her on the show any number of times, came up short for reasons that we're gonna talk about. I wanna give you just a little bit more of what she said. Before we get into that though, she said, I'm going to work very hard to ensure that something like this doesn't happen to another progressive candidate again. We didn't lose this race. Evil money manipulated and maligned this election. And there, of course, she is referring to the massive amount of money that came in. The vast majority of it seemingly from one group, the Democrats for majority for Israel. So let's bring this up. You can see they spent damn near $2 million, which I don't need to have gone to grad school to say means that they think Shontel Brown is worth millions of dollars to them over having Nina Turner in that race. So Francesca, we're gonna dive in a couple different angles of this, but what were you thinking yesterday as the results were coming in?
I mean, it is hard to imagine that after leading out and jumping out ahead of the pack, with something like a 30% lead or 30-point lead, that Nina Turner could have lost this. And then you realize just how much, like that phone call that Obama made to all the Democratic primary candidates to concede and back Joe Biden, how the centrist, moneyed Democrats are able to coalesce and support their person, no matter if that person is upholding the status quo, right? And they can do it quickly and swiftly, and they did. And look, when you look at the numbers specifically, it's not that terrible of a defeat. So I have every ounce of hope and belief that Nina Turner is gonna run again, and she's gonna win. But I wanna separate, I think, I have a lot of thoughts. I want to separate sort of the online discourse around this election from what actually happened. And what actually happened is that she ran a really incredible race, that she did not lose by a lot, and that she made centrists incredibly scared and good.
Yeah, 100%. And look, she's obviously pointing out, and I think a lot of people are pointing out the massive amount of money that went into mostly attacking her, a little bit supporting Brown, mostly to attacking her. That's obviously not the only reason. I mean, that we can't be super surprised that happened, as unfortunate as it is. So, if that's possible, you have to be ready to deal with it. And look, certainly she got an assist from a lot of the best, elected progressives in the country, with AOC going to help her out and Bernie Sanders going, and they did what they can, but it's just, this year obviously has not been great for a lot of different reasons. It would have been really awesome to add someone as strong and as passionate as Nina Turner. And I think you're totally right. She will definitely run again, whether in this same race or for some other race. But today, this week, that doesn't help us. And like 2 years from now will come. But I don't want to think about 2 years from now. It's just unfortunate that someone who we've had on to talk about a number of different issues, and we've always gotten really fired up talking with Nina Turner, that she would lose is just unfortunately really depressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is hard to imagine that there would be so much money funneled in from centrist Democrats and from their donors, from groups like the Third Way, who still somehow think that in a Trumpian neo-fascist world, what we have to do is play it safe. That we shouldn't speak to the needs of the people, we should speak to the needs of the Israeli lobby. Like that's where it's at. That's how we're gonna win elections. And the squad has proven that that's absolutely false. These same interests have poured money into campaigns against Jamal Bowman, against Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, against Representative Ilhan Omar. So they have tried, they succeeded in this case. But it is mind-boggling that after all of this time, after the failures of 2016, after the failures of 2018 or 2020, to be honest with you, when it comes to centrist Democrats losing their seats, more so than progressives did, that they would still triple down on trying to defeat someone like Nina Turner, who is speaking to the needs of working class people, everyday Americans at a time of massive income inequality. And I think, to me, the most annoying part of all this is that myth, that lie that keeps on rearing its head, that because Nina Turner will not bend the knee to the Democratic Party, she doesn't actually care about people, and that she would be a bad politician, right? That's the one that gets me so fired up and so angry. And you see some people on the internet and progressives, mostly centrist liberals, who keep on touting this. Nina Turner is toxic, Nina Turner won't work with any. You just had Cori Bush spend 4 nights outside of the Capitol steps in order to protest the eviction moratorium expiring and successfully winning that battle. Yes, I know we're going to talk about it, but that is what it takes. It takes unconventional, non sort of status quo politicians. It takes those kinds of strategies to actually get the most minimal thing done. And to imagine being scared of someone like Nina Turner because we have to placate the center. What center? There's no more center. It's you and your donors and like the Friends of Israel, right? And like Pharrell Williams when the Friends of Israel hires him for a concert. Like literally, like that's it. It is unclear that actually
did that happen?
Yeah, that happened. It's so that I think is what the most frustrating thing is that like, why are we bending the knee? Why? Tell me why we bend the knee when Democrats can't get anything done.
Yeah, well, and most of the time, don't even try. But yeah, look, the only other thing I want to, people are pointing out, I don't know if we already said this, but that the Cori Bush had run, lost, ran again, and eventually won, and now look, that's paying off, and that's what I want to focus on. So, I'm not some objective person just floating through the ether. I have goals in politics. I have values that I try to see translated into political action. I assume many of you probably don't find my values abhorrent, or you probably wouldn't be here. So if you are like me in some ways, I'm guessing that you are somewhat depressed, perhaps despondent in the same way that I am. I am not necessarily the best person to get you fired up because I can't hide the fact that I'm depressed. But I will say the reason I'm depressed, and I guess maybe this has become controversial recently, is that I think who wins elections matters. Getting the best people in every single election matters. We're gonna demonstrate that in our next block. It didn't have to be Cori Bush, it could have been someone else. And if you think the outcome would have been the same if it wasn't her, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Now, sometimes the establishment, and it comes in different forms. Sometimes the Democratic majority for Israel, sometimes it's Chuck Schumer, whatever. Sometimes they win. They flood an election with money and they win. And we've had devastating losses. Obviously, this is not the first, it will not be the last. Jessica Cisneros lost, and you had Eastman and Bernie's race, like those definitely happened.
Max Morse.
But exactly. Yeah, but on the other hand, we also had AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Aina Presley and Jamal Bowman, and some of those were sort of surprises. Maybe they were taken by surprise, but others were very much not. Look, the last thing I want is for you to be struck with apathy, to pull yourself out of the system, because the thing is, the people who put $2 million in this race are not getting apathetic. If they'd lost, they wouldn't check out because they care about what happens. They're wrong, they're working for the wrong things, but they're not going anywhere. So we can't afford to. And so whatever might lead you to become apathetic, please do not listen to it. The results of these elections matter. They are really difficult, often incredibly depressing, but we can win. We have won. We will win in the future. But the only way that it's gonna happen is if we stay invested, and not just in following the news. As I've always said, if the end result of you watching this show is you watching this show, then this show is pointless. It honestly is. So there's so much more important stuff out there. We try to focus on it. We try to bring people on who are doing it. I need a little bit of time to sort of get revved back up for everything, but I hope that you can recover at least as quickly. Anyway, well, look, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, and I 100%, John, and I just like commend your honesty, and it's hard to be, I think we're sort of taught to be more like, let's be distanced and analytical only. And I love that the damage report isn't that show, that we can be fired up, we can be honest, we can be disappointed, and we can be nuanced and thoughtful with everything that we say. And I'll just say that, like, look, you just wait when COVID's over. Because you think about the number of like how many more volunteers might have come to Ohio, right? How many more volunteers to get, what was it, 2,500, whatever, however many more votes it was. Not very many.
Yeah.
To get those votes out, like 50 more volunteers knocking on doors, doing that work that AOC did every single day, right? Imagine if AOC had run during a pandemic. It's not easy. And during a special election, special election, pandemic, these are, again, unprecedented times. So yes, absolutely. It's not just about being apathetic, it's being cynical to the point where you think cynicism is a smart analysis, and it's not. The hard work is where it's at, so.
Yeah, cynicism doesn't help anybody except potentially grifters who can feed off of it. That's it. And we're not, we watch that, we check that on the right. We cannot afford to have it, come home. Anyway, with that though, there is a lot of other news to get to, including news that we've already alluded to. So we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna jump into what you can get when you do have the right people in office. So we'll have that for you after this. I want to start off with this comment that I just saw on Twitch from Peachy Keen, who said Nina Turner's campaign was the first I had participated in. I'm a New York resident, but I did what I could from a distance. Now I'm inspired to get involved with more progressive candidates. That's awesome. I want more Peachy Keens. Anyway, okay. Over on YouTube, Francesca Haspildori and Stephanie, thank you for becoming tier 1 members. Much appreciated. Okay, we have a members comment from Josh Gore, says, remember that people are generally not politically savvy and will vote on whomever gets the most attention. Policies of the last 40 years have made it hard to focus on anything but day-to-day stress. That is true. That's one of the reasons that the money is so important, especially in these races where they're not necessarily people who are particularly well known. Mapwa says, thank you, John, because I was a bit defeated this morning and almost didn't watch and was almost feeling what's the point, but I'm here and you are inspiring. Thank you for being here. Someday we're gonna have a really boring 6 months of the damage report where everything is going our way and there's like not much conflict and drama to talk about. It's unfortunately a long way off, but I look forward to being bored with all of you. Okay, David, thank you, much appreciated. Matthias says, support each other and stay positive. I upped my subscription to TYT to try and help counter their propaganda. It's about integrity, and integrity is a lifelong journey of character. Much love all. Thank you, Matthias, it's very nice of you. Okay, Kevin says, what if progressives run a reverse cinema, run as Republican and then surprise progress, Mitch? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a possibility. I generally hate the sort of like election manipulation. Like I hate the times that like third-party candidates will be run that don't have anything to do with that third party. They're funded entirely by Republican donors or whatever, just to take away 2 or 3%. I hate that can even exist in the system. So I get what you're saying, and maybe pragmatically, that's something that we should work on. I can't do it. Maybe you can. Maybe you've hid your progressive thoughts, so they wouldn't know as it was going on. But yeah, I wish we could just have stand-up elections between candidates who say what they actually think. The race is not manipulated by tons of money. Unfortunately, we're nowhere near there. Okay, let's see. Double O says, hey, Double O says, good morning, John and Francesca. Man, has this been a depressing week. Joey Jordison, former drummer for Slipknot, died last week, and then Nina's loss. Just glad we have each other, Dragon Squad. Yeah, I think I actually saw that. That is unfortunate. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, your country would not even exist if Washington just gave up after one defeat. With your Ravenna hair, John, you are definitely rich with mental vitamin C. Goodness against excess cynicism. Also, hi, Fran. Is that a side effect? Anyway,
you look like a nerd. You look an actual nerd. Like the candy. Like I know you're a regular nerd, but you look like a nerd, the candy, John.
Thank you. I prefer that.
DJ Lunchbox mixing it up.
Oh my God. Teal says, hey D Daddy, I come bearing horrific news. DOD anti-vaxxers are asking the union for a petition against testing and mandatory vaccine. During the pushback on this, my coworker put in writing that their lie is worth more families of those forced to work side by side with. I don't know. One thing at a time. God, the news sucks. Anyway, we have good news, right? Yes, we do have good news. We have good news, which is gonna be coming up very soon. So that'll be a little a taste cleanser for us before we move on to more rough stuff. But anyway, Curtis, hello to Pittsburgh. Appreciate Pittsburgh being in attendance in the audience. We've got a lot more news for you coming up right after this. Okay, everybody, let's turn to something completely different. We entered the weekend incredibly disappointed, but not surprised by the Biden administration and the Democrats and the CDC allowing the eviction moratorium to expire. And as that was happening, a protest developed. Cori Bush and others refusing to leave, sitting on the steps, sleeping on the steps of the Capitol, trying to draw attention to the fact that millions of Americans' lives were due to be ruined, and almost immediately. And what do you know? They said it couldn't be done. Some of them said it shouldn't be done. But the protest apparently worked, because days after a national eviction moratorium expired, the Biden administration on Tuesday issued a new, more limited freeze that remains in effect through October 3rd. Like the previous order, the 2-month moratorium issued on Tuesday comes from the CDC, a weird point which we're gonna return to. The new ban on evictions covers parts of the United States that are experiencing what the CDC calls substantial and high spread of the coronavirus. As of Tuesday afternoon, that's the vast majority of US counties. And the order, which cites the rise of the Delta variant, says without this order, evictions in these higher transmission areas would likely exacerbate the increase in cases. So in a little bit, we're gonna turn to Cori Bush and those who made this available. Right now, I wanna talk about the actual substance of it. So I do find it a bit ironic that this is limited in that it's only gonna be in the areas that have a lot of COVID. So in a way, thank you, Tucker Carlson. Thank you, Ben Shapiro. Thank you to all of the right wingers who have caused this pandemic to be as horrible as it is more than a year in, because at least now that means a lot of people will be in areas where the eviction moratorium continues. But that said, Francesca, there are some places it won't stretch to, and it only lasts for 2 months, and it's still just an eviction moratorium. It's not a clearing of rental debt. So with all of those acknowledgments, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think it's incredibly important, and it shows the power that Congress people have, even outside of the actual procedures and processes. Again, I think unconventional thinking and more of an inside-outside strategy, even for people who are Congress people, works. So Cori Bush proved that. That being said, it is a very small victory. It is just 2 months. It's still gonna get maybe battled in the Supreme Court, but who cares? Because people will be in their homes. They'll have 2 more months to be able to try to find work, to make rent, to get states and local governments to dole out the rental assistance money that has been promised and that was, I believe, in the American Rescue Plan signed by Joe Biden. So get that money out there. People need that money ASAP. But yeah, it is crucial. It's sad that it took this much work and effort and sort of pots and pan clanging to get something that was so minor that Biden could have done and should have done when he saw that there were 2 days left in Congress, before recess, and it was like, all right, this is not gonna happen. Let's just do this, because clearly states are having trouble. And yeah, the Delta variant is spreading and will continue to spread. But of course, fascism loves Delta. Like I love how you're like, oh yeah, Tucker, thank you, Tucker Carlson, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Fascism loves inequality, loves desperation, because the more desperate people are, the more they'll be like, yeah. An authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship is totally fine with me. Let's go for it. Anything to make the trains run on time, stability, blah, 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 blah. Just do it. And so we can't forget that like destitution is their goal.
Exactly, and they certainly do not mind it. But before we move to more of an acknowledgement of all the great work that you were just talking about there is one more point which I guess is just me being stupid. I don't know. I guess I missed something. I read a lot about this and I haven't yet figured it out. So if you recall, I think it was Friday when we were incredibly critical of the fact that the Biden administration had waited until like the last minute to say, hey, maybe we should do something. And then they seem to say, well, it's really about Congress. I mean, the Supreme Court said Congress had to do it, so it's really about Congress. And then Nancy Pelosi said, well, it's really about the CDC, and then the CDC wouldn't answer the phone call. It was all this like passing the buck or whatever. So now we've got the extension, and it's the CDC that's doing it. The Biden administration said the CDC is doing this. Okay, so Gene Sperling, who oversees the White House's rollout of COVID-19 relief, told reporters on Monday that Biden had quadruple checked whether he had the legal grounds to extend the moratorium unilaterally, but said ultimately his hands were tied by a Supreme Court ruling that blocked the CDC from extending its past moratorium beyond the end of July. A last-minute effort by Congress to extend the ban failed. Sperling pushed back against criticism from Democrats on Capitol Hill, who argued the White House should have acted sooner in extending the earlier moratorium. He said the Supreme Court made it clear that congressional authorization was needed on the matter. So he said, no, we checked, we double dog checked, we can't do it. It needs congressional authorization. And so Congress tried, I guess. It was like so fast I didn't even notice it. It didn't work. And then the CDC just did it. But they said that it couldn't. I don't understand what's going on. So why did we have to go through this rigmarole for 72 hours if they could have just unilaterally done it?
Because what am I missing? You're missing that no one was going to notice, and that no one in power was going to notice, and that they were banking on that, right? And that no reporter was gonna go to the front lines of evictions and very few, and talk to them, at least not on national news. So you fly under the radar. Oops, we tried. Ooh, we passed the buck. I get but it's done. And then along comes Cori Bush, right? And what began as a stunt, which look, sometimes stunts lead to things, right? And it was like, oh no, now there's attention on this thing that we sort of deliberately forgot to do. And now we can do it. And suddenly we found a backbone. But it is so sad that no Democratic leader, not the president, not the Speaker of the House, is able to stand up and say, no, we're not gonna let people be thrown out onto the streets during a pandemic. And damn it, I will go to the Supreme Court with this. I stand by this because these are my values. And then you go back to Trump, right? And you're like, oh, I know his values because he, spewed them all over the place through executive orders that were then litigated to death, right? And some of them still went through. Some of them were still enacted by the Department of Homeland Security. Parents and children were still separated at the border, even though it was illegal. Like all of the things that was like, at least he had a plan and moral and immoral moral, like a lack of morals. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, there it is. Whereas Biden, it's like, well, you could just stand for something, buddy.
Stand or just try. Just try. If the Republicans want to sue you to stop it, make them. You be the one that's protecting people from being thrown out on the street during a pandemic. Let them be the ones trying to make sure they get booted, okay? And maybe you win, maybe you don't win. I think that you're completely underestimating the odds that you do win. But either way, at least you're the one who is trying. What are you there for if not to at least try? You're not there to quadruple check, to just look at papers and be like, well, I guess everybody's screwed. Try, you're the president, okay? People will appreciate it at least if you give some effort. Now that said, I do want to turn to giving credit where credit is due because we very rarely have a good reason to do so, but we're about to. So, thank you to Cori Bush and others for getting us, at the very least, this extension of the eviction moratorium. We're gonna go through the people who were gleefully mocking Cori Bush and others for what they're doing, coming from all different directions somehow, but Cori Bush put it on the line, did what she thought she had to do, and now, at least for a couple of months, millions of people who would be suffering today will not be, and that matters. So I want to give a little bit of time to what they had to say about this. So first, here is Cori Bush responding to the announcement.
Fight will morph it into, that's what a movement is. You move with whatever the change that's needed, and so we'll move with that. And like Representative Jones said, we have another fight coming up, and we want to be on the, we're already gearing up for that. And let me say, activists are in Congress. So let's be clear. Activists are in Congress. So expect for things to be different than what maybe people are used to. We don't have the same eyes, we don't have the same background or the same agenda as some others.
Yes.
Yes, and we I don't know if I was audible there, but we saw Ryan Grim was right nearby. Ryan Grim gets to do all the fun stuff anyway. But that was Cori Bush. totally right. It is a movement. They get this little victory. As we acknowledge, it is a big victory for the people who would be on the street right now. It is a small victory in comparison to what actually needs to be done to permanently stop this problem, but it is still something, and now they need to go to other fights. But we have a little bit more. Here is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I think what the message here today is clear, is that everyday people can make a change. We can always demand better, and we can push ourselves to be better. And that should not be taboo in our democracy.
Exactly. And I'm glad that she's saying that, because there's a lot of people who do not want you to do that. So no, it does sometimes, it doesn't mean every time, doesn't mean that you'll always win, but you can't win if you don't play. I heard that somewhere once. And Cori Bush and others, Jamal Bowman and others deserve credit for that.
Yeah, and it's more than that. It's playing by rules that are broken, and Congress people now refusing to play by those broken rules, refusing to play by the rules that have doomed working people, people of color, women in this country for decades. And so if it takes a little rule breaking, or hey, just staying up and sleeping on the Capitol steps to prevent people from being evicted for 2 months, so be it. But I mean this, look, this is what happens when you elect people who are not just activists, who don't just understand how movements work, how, causing a scene, getting some press on you, how that works, but understanding what homelessness is like, right? That Cori Bush said that she lived in her car for a time. Mm-hmm. You cannot underestimate having that kind of diversity in our elected officials, and among, whether it's local officials or on a federal level, having people who understand what it is to be homeless, to be gay, to be seeking an abortion, to be all these things, to have real lived experiences, to have been working for minimum wage. That means a lot. And I'm not talking about, oh God, why am I forgetting? Paul Ryan being like, well, I worked at McDonald's for a summer. No, buddy, no.
Okay. Paul Ryan impression ever.
I worked at McDonald's. Anyway, let's take away Social Security. Like, I just. So this is what happens when you elect those kinds of folks, and that's why it matters. And look, again, going up, and this week with Nina Turner losing her election, it's not over. It is not over. And my God, imagine being scared of people like Cori Bush. Imagine being scared of people like Nina Turner. And I just want to say, stop reading the news just for a few days, because the news has terrible takes on what this is. They think it means, oh, well, people just don't like firebrands. And this is really, the squad is basically Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. No, it's not. No, it's not. In no way is it like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz at all. Those people are fighting for anti-vax QAnon pedophiles, and these folks are fighting to keep people in their homes. So stop equating them. Stop saying that just because people are loud and out front and doing it like press events, that they're somehow the same thing. They're not.
Yeah. There's nothing I find more frustrating than that. When of course the squad is fighting for the bases of both of those sides. That's a major difference, that one is completely ignoring the problems of the people they say sent them there. The other is actually fighting. By the way, I noticed this stat. Rent has increased 11.4% so far this year.
Jesus.
Obviously making it very easy to catch up on all the payments that are thankfully being delayed, but will still be expected. And by the way, AOC, right after that video, acknowledged the point of this is to stop people from being thrown out of their house and give time, ideally, for the states and the federal government to get out the funds that they already have. They've already been given the funds, they just haven't made them available to help clear people's debt. More aid needs to be provided and all that, but there is at least some, and it needs to be distributed. Now, really fast, I wanna show you a video, mostly to try to make Francesca uncomfortable, because you had politically uncomfortable. So you had Cori Bush, you had AOC, you had Jamal Bowman, Bernie Sanders was out there, trying to get people to pay attention to this protest. There was another senator actually who was, and you'll see that here.
Hey, you are great. You did this. One person, really. Woo! Congratulations. I'm so proud and happy.
They're walking to the step.
Okay, there's actually another video where AOC is next to Cori Bush there, and he says, "You two are fabulous." And Francesca, what do you think?
I love the arms. Yay! I cannot raise. You got to give me a full screen here. Good
No,
job.
not that one. Anyway, it's okay. So Schumer has been definitely trying over the past year or so to ally himself with people on certain things. He's been saying he wants $50,000 in student loan debt cleared. He occasionally, like he was calling for the eviction moratorium to be extended. Of course, if he was an integral part of this process, that the how of that has not been made clear to me. But he is out there supporting them. So I don't know, how much are we supposed to be affected by that? How much credit are we supposed to provide based on that?
I have to say, I don't want to play cynical on this. I think it's great to see Cori Bush and Chuck Schumer hugging is good. That is good for us. And it's less for progressives who are like, yeah, we know we have to work with your asses. It's for centrists who are like, look, here is an incoming freshman congresswoman who it has, staged this, protest essentially, and now being congratulated by Schumer, who's obviously running completely scared for his own seat. So it was like, I must do this hug. But I still think it is good, to show that, look, people want to work together. She's not like, shunting a hug from Schumer. And so stop saying that progressives don't want to work with anybody. That's utter BS. But yeah, so good. Make them scared, make them hug, make them come out. Obviously, it was not as accessible of a protest for Schumi. He needs kind of like the full recliner if he's gonna sleep. When he goes camping, which I feel like he camped in 1965. And he was like 30 at the time or whatever. It was like a little too many rocks on his back, and he was like, never again. So he was in the Poconos, was a whole thing. He smoked grass. The point is this: you gotta make it more Schumer friendly. Get the full recliners out there. Get some pads.
Next time. Really fast. I was gonna make a big thing out of this. I'm not. I just want to show you these two pictures before we move on. I love the people who got out their bad takes on this just in time to be proven how bad those takes were. So Ben Shapiro tweeted about her protests. These sorts of stunts are so unbelievably off-putting and stupid. Yeah, it was so stupid. It was off-putting. I'm put off by you trying to stop people from getting kicked out on the streets. Ben Shapiro, a guy who's had such a difficult life. He's spent so much time unhoused himself. He's speaking for the forgotten conservatives, those who are suffering economically. And he just thinks a woman trying to stop people from being kicked on the street is off-putting.
I will have you know that when we were moving into our home and we were having it redecorated, that my wife we had to rent a hotel, and it was a 3-star hotel, and we had to stay there for a week. Okay, so I understand homelessness because when renovations happen on your first home, you have to stay in a hotel, and it was a Comfort Inn, and let me say, it was not comfortable.
It was not. That was good. That was better than your Paul Ryan. And then finally, and I believe, I could be wrong about the numbers here. I read that this was released on Twitter 3 minutes before the announcement that the eviction moratorium was being extended. I could be wrong, but that's what I read. It's an editorial on the platform. Cori Bush's antics generate publicity, but they won't change political reality. No one has been more wrong, more proximally to their wrongness than the person who wrote that op-ed. Anyway, that's wrong. I wrote an op-ed like 15 months ago about how Fox News was gonna get people killed by denying the reality of COVID and telling people not to take it seriously. I was proven wrong, I apologize. Anyway, that said, let's jump to one more really fast story. The governor of Missouri, Mike Parson, has pardoned the chuckleheads that you're seeing over here, the McCloskeys, people who you only know exist because of their pointing loaded weapons at peaceful protesters that had no interest in them. That's not the only reason, also their choice of fashion definitely made the thing go viral. But yeah, Mark McCloskey, who pleaded guilty in June to misdemeanor 4th degree assault and was fined $750. Patricia McCloskey, who pleaded guilty to misdemeanor harassment and was fined $2,000. Why was she fined more? Anyway, they were both pardoned, which I guess might mean that they can own guns again, unfortunately. Or I guess maybe just those guns were taken. But in any event, Francesca, they have now been pardoned. I thought it was important that we get to this story today because not only is that awful, why are they being pardoned? They did the things that they were convicted for. They're not apologetic. They're not in any way apologetic. But also, they were pointing guns at protesters in St. Louis, calling to mind, at the same time, Cori Bush, one of those protesters, is getting amazing things done in DC. We have these two sides of the movement. One side protecting people from being kicked down the street, the other Republicans trying to protect their Republican Senate candidates because Mark McCloskey is of course running for the Republican nomination. It seems an insane use of the power of a governor, but it happened and it can't be stopped.
Well, they can't perform at children's birthday parties with the charge hanging over their heads. So, I think the pardon was, is beneficial to all MAGA birthday parties to spread joy everywhere. Because yes, you can rent them. There are lookalikes for sure, but they're not as good as the real thing. I've seen them. Obviously, Mrs. McCloskey was charged for more because she was holding her weapon correctly. Whereas like Mr. McCloskey was like, nah, it wouldn't have ended well for him anyway. But look at this iconic duo.
I believe that form is called the I'm a little teapot.
Yeah.
The crook elbow. Oh my God. The only reason you know who they are is they were scared enough and racist enough to threaten to murder people who were walking by their house. That is the only reason.
I'm a little racist, hear me shout. Look at the museum of a home they have. I'm sorry, people, I need to scream this. Look at the museum of a home. We see this footage way too close up too often. That is a giant. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody cares. Stay home, eat your muesli, and yell at Fox News. It's all you're good for, McCloskeys. Stop it. We know you had to put on pants to come outside. Nobody cares about you. Nobody was looking for you. Nobody was outside of your house. Nobody was threatening you. Nobody was armed. But yeah, of course they're gonna. I mean, what it is? Look, John, if that situation had gone worse, if they had actually fired a gun, they would have still been pardoned. They would still gone down the same way.
They'd be perhaps even bigger martyrs than they are now. Wait, can we go back to that footage for 1 second? Because something was just brought to my attention that I did not notice before. Can we bring up the footage of them? Are they both barefoot? Oh my God, they're both barefoot.
Yeah.
No, you are not that scared if you're barefoot. You had time for khakis, but not for shoes. You're relaxed, dude. That's what you are. At least throw your boat shoes on, man. Anyway.
Yeah, they slip on. Get the moccasins on. What's wrong with you?
Right in there. You have your butler slip it on you. Anyway, with that, we are gonna have to take our second break. But when we come back, the Cuomos. Oh, they've done it again. We'll be breaking down how, why, and what might happen after this. We have the worst people in this country. Anyway, hello everybody. Let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Okay, Nicole Smith says, lost elections are not defeats, but setbacks. We trudge on stronger and harder than ever. We will win. Love you, TDR, TYT, and my Dragon fam. Thank you. And the system, like a lot of people, when something like this will happen, they'll point out, well, the system is clearly, it's structured in a way that produces outcomes like this, which obviously that there's shades of that. I mean, we've won elections. If you don't like the system, which I don't in a million different ways, change it. So for instance, we talk often about like ranked choice voting, approval voting, things like that. So those things would be better. Work to make those happen. But there are a lot of people who just say, nah, there's no point. We should have ranked choice voting. Okay, no, I get what you're saying. But like then to help us get there, like you can't just not like the system, say this would be better. But we don't have that right now. So like we have to use the system we have and fight to change the system. Those are two things simultaneously. It sucks to have to do that, but that's the only thing that makes sense to do. Anyway, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon gave me a little fact check. Says, in regard to my last super chat, it's Ribena, a black currant squash that is purple. I guess you don't have it in the US. We probably do. I'm not the biggest vegetable person, I guess. But thank you. We have a super chat from Lena Peak. Hey, Lena. Apologies that you don't get to talk about JR's OnlyFans. But anyway, it says, fun fact I learned recently, most of the McCloskey's neighbors hate them because they sue their neighbors for minor local ordinance violations. I had actually heard that, yes. Shockingly, they're not popular. But thank you for that. Jake's Dragon says, Nina's defeat shows us how motivated Democrats can be to get stuff done when they want to, which means they don't fight for us because they just don't care. Yeah, I think that's definitely a big part of it. Non-Human Humanist says, Hungary, be unhoused illegal has labor law 2018 nicknamed slave law, mandated overtime, which can be compensated 3 years later. US watch out. No, that stuff about Hungary can't be true. I mean, one of the biggest newsmen in America just went there and broadcasted from it. If there was anything like that, I'm sure he would have told us about it, right, Francesca? Like, Tucker didn't seem to have any criticisms of Hungary or its government or anything like that. It's weird.
No, I mean, look, as long as they hate Soros together.
Exactly. Now, look, if I were brought on to Tucker Carlson's show, I would criticize him for his uncritical acceptance of a proto-fascist regime. But unfortunately, he doesn't invite me on. Anyway, the purple hair dragon subscribed for 6 months on Twitch says, what happened to the purple hair? What? No, it's still purple. Look at that. That looks purple. Anyway.
It's still bad.
What's that?
Still bad.
Thank you. You could have just said purple, but okay, good. How many gift subs for you to dye your hair purple?
How many was it for you?
1,000.
That's nothing. No, 5,000? No, let's do. Look, if y'all subscribe, if you subscribe to the Bitchuation Room podcast, I know we have 30 seconds, Marissa. I'm getting to this. If I get 50,000 subscribers, dude, I'll go any color you want.
1,000. Okay. But you have to do it the right way. You have to bleach and then dye.
It's got to be bleached and then dye for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Vimy Dragon subscribed for 7 months. Thank you, Vimy Dragon. Lavinator subscribed for 8 months and put up an emoji that offends me, but thank you. Kobu for 4 months. I'll read your message soon. I know that we don't have any time. More news coming up after this. Okay, let's jump into this next one. Despite all that's been coming out, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York is refusing to resign after the Attorney General Letitia James put out a report saying that he sexually harassed 11 different women. Now, that means that they corroborated the accounts of 11 different women. It does not mean that it is limited to 11 women, but that is so far what they've looked into. Now, he is not resigning despite those details, despite, let's see, all of the Congress people, the senators, the governors from surrounding states, and the president of the United States as well, all calling on him to resign. But so far, he isn't doing it. Now, we're gonna get into the details of what the report found in just a sec, but did you expect that once the report was out, as you were reading it, that he would resign? Should we be surprised?
No, we should not be surprised.
Some Democrats have resigned. Al Franken resigned.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats who are susceptible to shame and just and facts, I think, resign. Those are the ones who resign. But Cuomo, we knew he was gonna triple double. Like, this is the way Cuomo operates. It is part and parcel of like kind of running a reign of terror, corrupt governorship, and bullying his enemies. And this is no different. And man, I have a lot of thoughts about the defense that he has lobbied in his favor. I know we're gonna get to it all, but let me just say that these cases are so far from what he is saying. He's saying, I love to kiss people. I kiss people on the hand. I kiss people on the cheek. Sometimes I kiss people on the mouth. Whoops, did I say mouth? I meant other cheek. Like, it is very offensive to have him, for me as an Italian, for him to equate the like being a little friendly and saying ciao bella and doing all these things with like, he's like, maybe it is cultural. You are just an anti-Italian. Like, come on, dude. We're really like Silvio from Sopranos here.
That's true.
We're gonna go into
I want
it.
to put an image. Yeah, so why don't we go to this first video? Understanding, we're gonna give you the details of what he did. This was put out by him as a defense. Let's take a look.
I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
Now look, I don't like that he's sort of trying to use Italianness as, I don't like it any more than you do, Francesca. But of course, the gaslighting there is that, like, pinching someone's cheek, that is not what the report is about. Like, he is attempting to defend himself by making it about something totally different. Al Gore was not testifying against you. That's not the thing. And it is not just a hug. It is not just anything. In fact, let's go into a little bit of what they found. So investigators wrote that Cuomo sexually harassed a number of current and former New York State employees by, among other things, engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching, as well as making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature that created a hostile work environment for women. So that's a little bit broad. What do they mean? I'm assuming this is what was pictured in the shots of him with Clinton and Gore. I guess he was saying to them, as he was to his aide Charlotte Bennett, that it would be better for her to get a tattoo on her butt instead of her shoulder, saying so that people would not see it if she were wearing a dress. He made other inappropriate comments to her, such as asking if she had piercings anywhere other than her ears, a discussion Bennett described as painfully awkward. So look, that is what we're talking about here. It is not just that he hugged someone. It's not just that he was Biden-y. There was a dozen women who were saying this guy had a pervasive atmosphere of sexual harassment, attempts to sleep with people, all of that. It is an entire culture that was around him, that he enlisted people in his defense for, which we'll get to a little bit more of that in a bit. But trying to make it seem as if, well, I kissed a congressman, are you saying I should be locked up over that? Is willfully ignoring the actual content of the investigation.
Yes, I have a background leaf blower and I am so sad because I really want to talk about this. But yeah, oh good. No, it's the height of cynicism for him to use like, I do gestures, I kiss young and old, black and white, as long as they're hot. I mean, wait, did I say hot? Like I'm waiting for him to just, it is so awful that he's equating this with actual sexual harassment, targeted campaigns, getting his aides to go after women who say, the governor likes you, the governor's got a crush on you, all that kind of stuff. It's just disgusting, right? And then the other thing he's doing is not just blaming the like Italianness or whatever, but he's also trying to appeal and walk that line that a lot of people walk when it comes to being accused of sexual harassment, where they say, they're basically trying to do the gray zone area. Like this was a misunderstanding, that it was only a misunderstanding. And I'm gonna lean into the fact that there is a gray zone area. And hey, it's the same thing where it's like, hey, you can't even smile at a woman anymore. You can't even, like touch a woman's shoulder anymore. And he knows that that is a trigger and that a lot of men have echoed the exact same thing. And so he's using that by saying, you can't even, like shake a woman's hand anymore. And that is such cynical BS. We know that it was way more than that.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. It's a terrible defense. I don't think it's going to convince people, at least in terms of the elected officials of his office. That said, a Marist poll from last night asked people, should he resign? 59% said he should resign. 52% of Democrats, 77% of Republicans, 72% of unaffiliated voters. So a narrow majority of Democrats are like, yeah, that's unacceptable. 59% overall say it. Now that said, I want to turn to one other part of this. Chris Cuomo is hardly the Cuomo most under the gun this week, but that said, the fact that Chris Cuomo is in the news as his brother is facing, all of what's come out in that investigation is leaving a lot of people to wonder, how is this gonna work? So we already knew from the past that he had been sort of advising his brother while doing, his show and everything. And so Francesca, like, I don't believe he talked about it on his program last night. He did a handoff to Don Lemon, who immediately went in on Andrew Cuomo. So can they just have one of their main hosts just not talk about it? It seems like a really weird thing to try to continue.
And yet it's not new. I mean, look, this is the revolving door between politicians and DC and mainstream news is disgusting. There is an incredible amount of nepotism in our industry. Sadly, far too much, right? And there's a huge conflict of interest. Like, look, John McCain did pass away, but when he was alive, Meghan McCain was on The View, right? And like, what if he was still in office? What if he was like, I mean, it's endless what happens. So yeah, like Chris Cuomo being on CNN primetime, they're not gonna fire him. There is no way they're firing Chris Cuomo because the media does not see that as a conflict of interest. They see it as a boost. They want that. They want the last name, just like politicians want the last name, right? You got a Clinton, you got a Trump, any last name, they are into it, right? McCain, whatever, right? We know we haven't seen the last of Meghan, damn it. But like, it is not a lot to ask, and yet the media continues to fail, and it's just so egregious. Look, are we that desperate for leadership in this country that we're above, criticizing Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo, and anyone who like acknowledges reality, we're like, oh my God, are you our father? Are you our father now that you acknowledge there's COVID death? Oh, you hid a bunch of COVID deaths? Oh, you sent old people back to the nursing homes. Cool, yeah. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely not a good week for the Cuomo sexuals.
Oh God.
Or the media who had so much fun with that. Yeah, I guess what they're gonna do is just not have him talk about it. That's better than him talking about it in a way just designed to protect his brother, but I don't know. It still seems really weird and really icky, and I don't think that I'm the only person. I think a lot of people in New York probably gonna have a bit of a problem with that. So we'll see how they manage it. I assume they will manage it by not doing anything, just not managing it at all. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. In any event, okay, we are running really low on time. I understand that. So to our audience on the linear platforms, thank you as always for being here. But if you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, the members app, or anything like that, we've got a lot more news. We're gonna be talking about one way you can get out of taking your vaccine. It's just pretending that something is your arm that is not. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? But we've got a lot of other news besides, so we'll see you in just a few. Welcome back, everybody. It's me and it's Francesca and it's Big Fran Wednesdays. Francesca, thank you for being here. Okay. Thank you for being here, everybody. I did want to let you know about a few things that are going on. One thing that's going on went on to me. That is our awesome purple Dragon Squad T-shirt. It's available at Shop TYT, meant to commemorate, this whole thing. Anyway, thank you to Sabrina for the idea. Thank you to, I believe Norma did the design. Thank you for that. Anyway, it's available to Shop TYT if you'd like to do a little bit of purple. So also after our show, Indisputable is coming up. As always, youtube.com/indisputable TYT. Dr. Rashad Ritchie will be taking over. His co-host today will be Benjamin Dixon. So yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty good. You should definitely stay tuned. But anyway, before we get back into our news, I wanted to thank Charlotte Cousins for becoming a tier 1 member, much appreciated. Forbesilla sent in a super chat saying, I got a huge number of calls yesterday asking if our attorneys handled tenants who are being evicted. We do not. The number of calls was shocking. Yeah, I mean, it was like there have been so many apparently areas where landlords are waiting to throw people out. It's gonna trigger. Oh, it was Brett that did the design? I thought it was Norma. I'm still giving credit to Norma though. Thank you, Norma, for the design that Brett did. Anyway, let's see. Charlotte Cousins, who just became a member on YouTube, says, this is the first time I've watched live, but really need some love and light. So sad about Nina. Please help me see hope for the future. We're trying. She's still gonna be here. She's not going anywhere. George Krakowski said, Purple Tinkerbell Dragon won the bet and John did man up. Kudos, John, thank you. Stephanie Smith says, John, I think they gave the wife a larger fine because she kept pointing her gun at people over and over. Husband was holding his gun against his body. I mean, kind of, it was still sort of out. Anyway, I'm being corrected. Apparently it is Brett who's gonna be on Indisputable, so my document is incorrect. So not as exciting, but still somewhat exciting. So stay tuned for Indisputable.
He can talk about the shirt. He can talk about how he turned the shirt purple.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, okay. Over on Twitch, the Dalek Dragon subscribed for 6 months. Thank you. Hottie Meter says, love the smile on AOC's face. Go Cori, go. Agreed. By the way, Hottie Meter gave a good chunk of all of the gift subs that got us to purple. So thank you for that. The guy called Keith subscribed for 8 months, says the Ocho. 100%, thank you. Keep your ass home says, missed you on Monday, Francesca, but it's nice that you showed up today. Thank you.
I'm doing it for the squad.
She's here. Yeah. Okay, with that, why don't we jump into, I'm gonna say, the weirdest news of the month. I think that's probably gonna be true, so let's jump into that. Some Russian citizens, in an effort to not have to get vaccinated, are apparently turning to fake arms and shoulders to get vaccinated without actually getting vaccinated. So how would this work? Well, we're gonna turn to a TikTok parody demonstrating the process. Take a look.
Ну что, вы готовы? Поздравляю, теперь можете ковида не бояться.
Спасибо большое. До свидания.
I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. That's a parody, obviously, but apparently, I don't want to go through the whole thing. But there's like this Russian film producer who got word from their makeup artist that people are doing it. Apparently, this happened in the US as well, by the way. But there's a sale of counterfeit vaccination certificates. That's apparently very common in Russia right now. It was common in the US. After we got past those fake things saying you didn't need to wear a mask or whatever. So apparently people are selling fake pads you put on your shoulder so it can be injected into that. But all of this seems to be assuming that they shoot through your shirt, which has not been my experience with vaccination. I don't think this is gonna work. I feel like this is the most see-through grift probably ever. What do you think?
I mean, you gotta commend him, right, for trying to do something. Like it's the creativity is what I'm gonna commend here. I like this creativity. I like her little This is great, just coming out there. Yes, completely different colored arm. Here we are. Nice and discreet. Look, you guys, I can't even hide a tampon in my sleeve when I'm going to the bathroom. I don't know how you would hide a giant prosthetic, and you're just like, here I am. I'm walking to the bathroom with a normal hand that does not have a tampon in it. Doopy doo, like, right? So, sure. And look, prosthetics. I feel like if there's someone who's gonna know whether your arm is a real arm or not, is gonna be a nurse, but I'm just going out on a limb. I feel like that's sort of like 101 nursing school. Like, this is flesh, this is not.
Totally, if your nurse isn't able to tell the difference, it is probably for the best that you're not getting a shot from that nurse. I'm having a little bit of trouble finding a vein. That's because they're not there. Anyway, yeah, I don't think this is real. But that said, there is a lot of misinformation going around, and Russia could use a little bit of pushback against it, because as of right now, as of 2 days ago, looks like about 18% of their population was fully vaccinated against COVID. 7.7% are partially vaccinated. So you get to about 1/4 of the population has at least a little bit. I know, by the way, I'm seeing the fact checks. I know that it doesn't go into a vein. I'm just joking around. That said, yeah, so 1 out of 4 being vaccinated is better than many countries. It is obviously not great though, as the Delta variant and Delta Plus now are starting to spread. So maybe we can get past the fake arms, the fake vaccine certificates, and just get people actually vaccinated. If you're lucky enough to live in one of the countries where you actually can do it, maybe just do it. Now that said, why don't we go into another purveyor of misinformation? Let's talk about this. Ben Shapiro's lack of interest in the pandemic has changed from time to time, and he has not always been the worst out of all on the right, but that does not mean that you can expect him to be responsible. So we're gonna play a video from his show of how far his lack of caring about the pandemic has gone. I want you to see what he's against now.
Everybody panic, we have to panic. It's very important that we panic. The headlines today betray nothing but panic, panic, panic everywhere. Okay, who cares about getting diagnosed with COVID if you end up with a mild cold? I'm seeing sheer panic out there today because, wow, Lindsey Graham announced that he had a breakthrough case of COVID and now he's gonna self-quarantine for 10 days. And so first of all, I am not even sure that it's worth quarantining if you have COVID at this point. Like it's so widespread that I'm not even sure, like on a public health level, whether quarantining is actually going to slow the spread in any significant, like I get it. I get you're supposed to quarantine if you have COVID, I do. I understand why they're telling you to do this, because there's so many unvaccinated people out there. But if Lindsey Graham is dealing with a lot of vaccinated people every day, then really this should not be like of massive concern. In the same way that many people go to the office when they have a cold, many people go to the office when they're feeling mildly ill. If COVID is now degraded to the level of a mild illness, I don't understand why everybody on earth is supposed to be freaking out that Lindsey Graham got a breakthrough case of COVID that has resulted in the sniffles. Being diagnosed with basically very, very mild illness is not a public health emergency. And so when you see people freaking out about case rates, it makes no sense. It is just alarmism of the highest order.
Okay, Francesca. So more than a year ago, early on in the pandemic, when it was first hitting the US, Trump famously said that you should still go to work if you have COVID. And that was crazy stupid, so stupid. It has been a year and a half. So as stupid as that was, and I think we can all agree it was stupid, add a year and a half, add 600,000 dead Americans, and Ben Shapiro has now reached that level of Trump stupidity. The intellectual gladiator himself thinks you shouldn't, if you have it, just go about your business. Just go to work, just have fun. Don't let it, like kill your buzz, man. Just go about your business. That is what he is advising his audience to do.
Dude, that dude is streaming from quarantine right now. Like his wife was like, his wife that definitely exists in the strongest air quotes possible was like, yeah, no, you need to leave. Go somewhere else. I'm a doctor, supposedly. Again, air quotes, not clear. Maybe a dentist, not, yeah. Anyway, but like, how is this guy supposed to be smart? Why do we see people like lining up at Politicon? These like kids of Republicans who are like, oh my God, Shapiro's amazing. Like, oh God, oh, all you little virgins. I'm sorry, they're not all virgins. Maybe they're not. There's nothing wrong with virginity. The point is this. Why does he have so many supporters who like think that he's smart when he's so clearly dumb? I don't know. Have a virologist on, bro. Have a scientist on. Have someone actually knows anything about this virus after a year and a half on your show to talk about it. Yes, you can still spread it. Yes, you should still quarantine. Yes, there are still people dying right now who are unvaccinated. But largely your audience is unvaccinated because you've been sowing a bunch of, misinformation about the vaccine itself. It's hard to keep track, right? The right only feeds on reverse psychology. So at this point, with so much changing information, they're really on their toes, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as to why people watch him, I think it's a combination of a few things. One, he gets a lot of advertising. I mean, so much money every year goes into advertising. But that said, some people like it. I mean, he talks very fast. He seems very sure of himself, and he preaches that you don't have to be responsible about anything. And all of the people that you hate and fear, it makes you better that you hate and fear them. That's going to be appealing to some people. But anyway, yeah, there. So he is saying just go about your business. Don't worry if you have COVID. That is as irresponsible as a thing I can imagine. And it's weird to say, I understand why you're supposed to quarantine, but I don't think you should quarantine. Then I'm gonna return to your first point and say that I don't think you do in fact understand why you're supposed to quarantine. But that said, the main reasons I wanted to do this story was I love, as you all know, criticizing myself for being stupid enough to give these people credit. So I gave him the least credit imaginable a couple days ago. He tweeted something and I quote retweeted it with just the word good. That's it. But even that was too much. His tweet said, here are your choices. Get vaxxed, probably avoid COVID altogether. And if you do get it, get mildly ill and almost certainly avoid death. Or don't get vaxxed, likely get COVID, most likely get somewhat ill, but retain a far higher chance of death than the vaxxed. That seemed to be indicating that he was taking it a little bit more seriously and understood that what you get, probably not dying, sure outweighs, it seemed like he had finally gotten that. And people pointed out, even at the time, the next tweet in his thread was, note that in this calculation, there's no talk of masks because masks are not going to prevent either outcome indefinitely given current data. Well, again, as I always say, that is not a logic that right wingers use for literally anything else. Stuff just improving your chances, but not assuring that you'll be just fine doesn't stop them from locking their door, using a seatbelt, carrying a gun for self-defense. It's weird that they only apply that to this. But more importantly, what is underlying that last tweet and what he said in the video is there's so much COVID, there's no point in doing anything. And of course, you have to ask, how did we get to that? Why is it so bad that there's just so much COVID that we might as well like just not even try? We didn't get there despite him spending every day doing everything he can to try to stop people from getting COVID, because that didn't happen. We didn't get there because Fox was really responsible. If we got there, and I don't think that we're actually there, we got it because there's a bunch of really irresponsible people saying stuff like what he said in that video, day after day, week after week, to millions and millions of people that unfortunately trust them. And I hope that they stop listening at some point. It might be the only thing that saves their life. But as of right now, he might occasionally throw out something that indicates getting vaxxed is okay, but he's still encouraging people to be really irresponsible when it comes to the virus.
Absolutely, and this is for an ideology that believes personal responsibility above everything else, and the government should have no role, and it's just personal responsibility, right? Well, guess what? Your people aren't getting vaccinated. Your people are not wearing masks, and your people are spreading COVID to others and killing them. So once again, It is amazing the way COVID has lifted the hood up over this on this country and exposed just how little of a social fabric that we have. We not only have a terrible public health system, we have no social fabric left, and this is proof of it, right? That we can't even instill the basic ideology of looking after one another, caring for your neighbors, caring for your community, right? This is the most basic thing to any community, any society, any country, right? I love it. They're like, we live in a society. Like, where? Where is your society? Or is it that you and your ideology love the fact that people are isolated, they're alone, they're scared, they're out of work, they're desperate. And that lends itself to a hyper individualistic, hyper fascist, just listen to me and my voice and my grift on my channel and nobody else's. Do not go out in the world, right? And if you do, arm yourself to the teeth. And so what if a bunch of people die, right? Like they want the apocalypse so bad, and they do not care about life whatsoever. And we see that here. I mean, last thing I'll say is I do believe, like, I think a lot of right wingers who are wealthy enough to have a giant piece of land or a museum-like home like the McCloskeys are like, yeah, why do I need the vaccine? I don't see anybody anyway, and when I do, I pull a gun on them. It is like it is right-wing ideology and identity to feel like, look, we should quarantine all the time from one another because everyone should be mistrusted and everyone's terrible. And it's like, not really quite ready to give up on the whole society thing yet. Personally.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna finish with just a few facts because things are developing quickly. I don't know if it was Monday or on Friday where we passed 100,000 cases once again. But in the last day of reporting, we had 149. It went up 50% in like 2 days, 3 days. COVID-19 cases among US children and teens jumped 84% in a week, which is weird because they can't get COVID, I heard. 1/3 of all those cases, by the way, are coming from just Texas and Florida. But Ben Shapiro, he countered the argument that obviously these red states are doing a bad job by showing overall death numbers from the entire pandemic by state and showing that states like New York and New Jersey had more deaths per capita. Of course, they were hit before we knew how to even test for it or even knew it was here. More people are dying now when we have all this information and vaccines. But hey, if it's not good enough for the intellectual gladiator, I'm probably missing something, I guess. And by the way, in his point, like we didn't play the whole video, he said, don't worry about the cases. It's only hospitalizations and deaths matter. Later on, he said, well, even hospitalizations don't really matter. Tell that to the people in the hospital. But he said only deaths matter. And look, I remain hopeful that we will never get the death numbers that we had before. But he is pretending that it's not getting worse. On August 3rd, we had 668 deaths. Back on July, like around the first week of July, we were at like 150, 200, maybe 250. So we're losing something like 400 to 500 more people each day than we were. And that is a small enough increase in deaths that people largely aren't even talking about it yet. But the cases are now going up 50% in a couple days. Are we just gonna cross our fingers and hope that that's not gonna translate to more deaths? Why would we believe that? Anyway, we have time for one more story. So why don't we jump into that? It's a little bit different. So we're gonna jump right into this video and tell you what we think.
Let's go. You guys suck. My parents are worth $4 million goddamn dollars. And you know what? Yeah. You know what? My grandpa. No. Chill out. I'm behind you.
So that was Maxwell Berry. Someday he'll be a Republican congressman, but right now he's a guy who got duct taped to a plane seat because he apparently assaulted a male flight attendant. You can see that there. He also groped some female flight attendants. So this initially, by the way, became news because Frontier Airlines suspended the flight crew for doing what you saw in that video, for duct taping this guy who was going insane. We want to give you more details and give you an update. So a police report stated that after consuming 2 drinks, bit of a lightweight, Barry apparently, he brushed his empty cup against a female attendant's backside, spilled a drink on his shirt, returned shirtless. After an attendant helped Barry get another shirt from his carry-on luggage, he walked around for 15 minutes before groping 2 female flight attendants' chests and punching a male flight attendant in the face. After that, he was, of course, restrained. He also fit in a little bit of time for asserting that I guess he can do anything he wants because his parents are worth $2 million. I don't know why that matters. It seems persuasive to him, Francesca. But let me know, what do you think?
Yeah, this is definitely the Matt Gaetz origin story, dude. I love it. And then they had me duct tape to a chair and they were all laughing. And that's when I realized I had to make more poor people. I had to take away Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Like, I love that. That is amazing. First of all, F that guy forever. What is he doing? Imagine, we've all been on flights. The patience that we've seen flight attendants exhibit when it comes to, all kinds of situations. The people with the dogs, the people trying to get the thing on the overhead compartment, just like I need to go to the bathroom a million times. And again, can I get another bit of ice? Whatever it is, they are like, these are like, they're wait staff in the sky, they're babysitters, they're wage workers. They are like, they're doing everything. They're saving our lives half the time. Sometimes you got to duct tape a fool to his seat.
Yep. 100%. Some people are pointing out, by the way, he's not gonna be a congressman, he's gonna be a Supreme Court justice someday. And also, like, look, obviously $2 million from our point of view, from most people's point of view, is a lot of money, but it doesn't feel like enough for you to shout it across a plane. Like, you're not a Bezos. I don't know, that seems weird. But anyway, look, now eventually, because of the backlash, they changed the suspension to with pay, and it's looking like maybe they won't be in any permanent trouble or something like that. But I'm just gonna say, this is only the latest in the, like, I guess the Ariel Karen genre of America. Everybody's starting fights. So look, I wanna go a step further. I don't just want to support flight attendants who do this. I think it's time to start preemptively duct taping everyone to their seat. I think just catheter everyone, turn on the TV and duct tape them to their seat, because we can't be trusted in things like planes anymore. Perhaps we never could. So I duct tape them all, hashtag, that's what I got for you. Anyway, Francesca, that is unfortunately all the duct tape time we have, but we wanna thank you for taking time out of your probably busy Wednesday and joining us. Thank you as always. I hear that we're trying to get more people to subscribe to the Bitchuation Room on YouTube. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. So go to YouTube/FrannyFio, which is my handle on all the things, and subscribe to the Bitchuation Room. I had a great interview with an awesome journalist who writes about the drug war yesterday, and I got a good show on Sunday night. Sundays 5/8 Eastern. Thank you so much, John Iadarola and team.
That is awesome. And everyone watching this, she's gonna check her analytics in a day or two. I wanna see a big old spike. So YouTube, search the Bitchuation Room, it'll come up, it's awesome. She has great guests on, they always have a lot of fun. Occasionally she puts me on the show, that's always nice. So let's see if we can create that spike. Thanks, Francesca, have a good one. And for those of you at home, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just riding out. Thank you, bye.
I thought you were like doing a Rudy or something. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. I will be joining Anna Kasparian on the second hour of the Young Turks a little bit later on. So should be a lot of fun, it usually is, so definitely stay tuned for that. And we got a bunch of other stuff planned. We got a full week. We're gonna search for good news and we will deliver it to you. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
right, what's happening? Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. Good to be with you. We got a lot of show today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Governor Cuomo to sit down. Before I get into that, breaking down news of the day is my big homie, Brett Ehrlich. He is TYT host and producer. Bringing him up in just a moment. Top story for today. The Attorney General launched an investigation. They found that this man is foul. Here's the AG.
The independent investigation has concluded that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women and in doing so violated federal and state law. Specifically, the investigation found that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed current and former New York State employees by engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching and making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature that created a hostile work environment for women. The investigators independently corroborated and substantiated these facts through interviews and evidence, including contemporaneous notes and communications. This evidence will be made available to the public along with the report.
I know there are some people who are saying, well, it wasn't all that bad what he did. And obviously he's denying it. Here's the reality. If you stand for what is morally right, you have to take allegations like this seriously, especially when they are inside of your own party. The Attorney General, Ms. James, she's a Democrat. The witnesses corroborated. You had over 100 people question. This was thorough. And many witnesses have already given their testimony to the investigators. So here's more video.
Over the past several months, you have heard a number of complaints brought against me. I called for an independent review, and I said at the beginning I would let the process unfold. I didn't want anyone to say that I interfered. I said I would hold my tongue, and I have, making only limited comments. It has been a hard and a painful period for me and my family, especially as others feed ugly stories to the press. But I cooperated with a review, and I can now finally share the truth. My attorney, who is a non-political former federal prosecutor, has done a response to each allegation, and the facts are much different than what has been portrayed. That document is available on my website. If you are interested, please take the time to read the facts and decide for yourself. First, I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances. I am 63 years old. I've lived my entire adult life in public view. That is just not who I am. And that's not who I have ever been.
Then it gets kind of weird. Watch this.
I do it with everyone. Black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
Wait a minute. Wait a damn minute. Was that an admission of guilt? Did he not just say, hey, I do it with everyone? Let's play the video again.
I do it with everyone. Black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
Okay, so you realize that literally he ordered somebody to find a bunch of pictures of him embracing other people, black people, white people, brown people, the young and the not so young. And this was his proclamation to the world. Hey, I'm not innocent, I'm not guilty, I'm actually innocent because look at these pictures. And just to provide proper context, the people in those pictures are not accusing him of being sexually inappropriate, okay? He's trying to make a thing that's not a thing in the first place. So you gotta be very careful about the slickness of the deceit here. Okay, let me read some background. The investigation found that he sexually harassed nearly a dozen women at work to retaliate against one of his accusers. I think he should resign, Biden told reporters Tuesday, echoing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and New York US Senator Chuck Schumer. The nearly 5-month non-criminal investigation, some are saying it should have been criminal, by the way, overseen by New York's Attorney General and led by 2 outside lawyers, concluded that 11 women from within and outside state government were telling the truth when they said Cuomo had touched them inappropriately, commented on their appearance, or made suggestive comments about their sex lives. Those accusers included an aide who said Cuomo groped at the governor's mansion, and the state trooper on his security detail who said he ran his hand or fingers across her stomach and her back. There's more. Ann Clark, who led the probe with former US Attorney Kim, said the allegations had varying degrees of corroboration, including other witnesses and contemporaneous text messages. Investigators interviewed 179 people, including the governor himself. It's time to sit down, sir. Brett, what are your thoughts?
I mean, so you're in a weird position. It's weird. It's okay to say that this is weird. The very serious allegations and ensuing investigation. They mentioned that they have 74,000 pieces of evidence that they have gathered. They've talked, as you said, to 179 people about this. That is the serious thing. And this is a scandal that if some people don't like to call it that, but like in terms of the reason I call it a scandal is because that is how it seems that Cuomo is approaching it. And then juxtaposed to the very serious nature of that, you got the New York Attorney General coming out there and making very serious, grave statements about the findings of investigation. Then you have the weirdest response I've seen in quite some time, where he's like, I just do this all the time. I grab faces, I touch, I kiss people. What's the matter? Like, that is not a defense. And while it is different than saying, I rob people all the time, is what I do. I rob them. Here's pictures of me robbing them. I know it's different than robbing them, but like just because you do something all the time doesn't make it okay to do. It makes it normal behavior for you, but is that the norm that a reasonable person would expect at the office? That you would grab their face and kiss them? I don't think so. That's what makes it so terribly weird. And the other thing that I think has all the trappings of an official statement that you would come to expect, and so he's saying it in a way that seems official, that you need to call out what it is at the beginning when he goes, I let this play out. I let the investigation play out before I said anything. And now my statement is, I'm not guilty. Like it's as though we were, what was the alternative? Did we think that after the investigation, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I totally did it? No, you just said like, as he's trying to make you feel like this is a giant revelation, I'm not guilty at all. It's like, of course, like that's the same position you had going in. You didn't want to comment on it, but you sure wanted to spin it. And the other bit of evidence in his like debate prep is my lawyer says I'm not at fault. Right. Like, yeah, that's what your lawyer's supposed to do. It would be weird if your lawyer was like, oh no, guys, yeah, I talked to him, bad news, bad news. I think they're like prevented from doing that actually. And you would get a mistrial in at least a criminal court if your lawyer was not acting in your favor at all times along the way.
Right, and he tried to provide context to the attorney being nonpartisan, a former federal prosecutor, but it's the guy that you pay.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's like incentive.
100%.
Right. That's the incentive here. Okay. That's the guy you pay to say what needs to be said in order to defend you. Listen, it is what it is, man. You know, at this point, everyone is asking for his resignation, including the president of the United States. Cuomo, Governor Cuomo, is trying to stay in office and stay in power. And I also think there's another practical reason, because as long as he's in office and let's say these allegations become more, well, he gets to utilize the great power of the state of New York in order to defend him against these allegations because they happened during his time as governor. And I do expect this to evolve into much more after the press conference.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, resigning is something at his disposal. The New York Times editorial board came out with an op-ed saying, like, you gotta go, buddy. But it's just so strange in the meantime to see him kind of handle it this way. I really can't struggle. I'm struggling to find like a good argument, just taking myself out of it, what I think is right and wrong out of it, just trying to see what part of his argument is any good at all. And I didn't see one. I didn't see one at all. The big question here, I think, is an interesting question, and I have the luxury of being able to say what's interesting and what's not, as opposed to like what these people are going through. But in a post-Trump world where you just essentially, to take a term from this show, stick and stay until it all blows over. Now we're in a post Al Franken world where he left and people are like, why'd you do that? He's trying to stick and stay and see if there are any negative consequences, and it looks like it's all at this point up to him.
Yeah, and this seems to be just much more extreme, and more may come. But we have right now a full investigation, according to the AG's office, 2 independent attorneys who were involved, corroborating witnesses. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. All right, shifting gears. This is the dumb as new law category. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a proposal right now in a county in New York that would allow the police to retaliate against protesters and get money from them. Let me give you some background. Lawmakers in a suburban New York county voted Monday to approve a proposal that would allow police officers to sue protesters and collect financial damages. Now remember, because of qualified immunity, it can't work the other way around, typically, okay? Qualified immunity provides a barrier between a cop and their personal finances. But proposal now so that cops can get money from protesters, a move similar to the Blue Lives Matter Act that was first proposed by GOP Congress members back in 2016. If this sounds familiar, it's connected. The bill passed by the Nassau County Legislature would make police officers and other first responders a protected class under the county's, get this, human rights law, which currently bars discrimination based on race, religion, gender, and sexual orientation. No other professions are protected under the human rights law. Isn't that something? Once again, a special little caveat for those in blue. And what they try to do is contextualize it as, all first responders. But this is really about cops. Once again, a statutory retaliation. They want it to be codified in law. It's meant to make protesters fearful of what may happen to them by exercising their freedom of speech. It gets deeper. The bill would allow a lawyer for the Long Island County to sue protesters on behalf of officers and calls for fines up to $25,000 for anyone who harasses, menaces, or injures an officer. I'm going to tell you why that's so dangerous in a moment. The fine amount would be doubled if the offending behavior happened in the course of someone participating in a riot, according to the bill. Let's break this down for a minute. What is your definition of harassment? What is it? If I'm yelling at a cop, is that harassment? Well, according to this law, it can be interpreted as such. If I'm chanting Black Lives Matter while police are in front of me, is that harassment? We just did a story a couple of weeks ago of a 19-year-old college student crumpling up paper that said Blue Lives Matter and got arrested. Went to jail for a hate crime against the police. So we already know they are willing to interpret the statute at its most extreme variable in order to make others afraid of them. This is your police state, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it is. There's more. Civil rights lawyer Frederick Brewington told reporters Friday that the bill violates free speech rights, and it does, and if passed, will have a chilling effect on protesters. The NAACP said it will bring members to Monday's vote. If you want to shut someone down, take away their livelihood, Brewington said. If you want to shut someone down, take away their spirit. This is intended to evoke fear in the community. This is payback. It's not right, it's not acceptable, and it's against the law. I completely concur. Brett, thoughts?
I'm just gonna go with what my instincts are here, and I'm sure there are gonna be a bunch of right wingers out there saying that this is a violation of free speech to protest. Like, there's so much insane. This is an insane law. This is a crazy, insane law. Props to Red Loke Dragon, who said that they wrote to their legislator to vote no in Nassau County. So congratulations, that's exactly what you should be doing if you are affected by this new potential law in this county. So there's a lot going on here. One aspect of it that I think that I guess is connected to that statement about breaking people's spirit, but it's also breaking their pocketbooks. Because here's what's gonna happen is the police union is gonna take all these cases. The police union is gonna be the one, depending on how it actually breaks down. If it's a civil case, they're gonna represent the police who feel threatened and feel upset by this. And they're gonna sue protesters who are just trying to find an hour to take off from their job, working someplace where they don't have that giant apparatus behind them, to come and exercise their First Amendment rights. And there's only so many cases that the ACLU can take up on your behalf in this situation. But what it does, the threat of that, it's another thing in America where they use the threat of financial ruin against people who just want to make sure that America is following through on the promises it originally made.
Think about the irony of it all. Literally, qualified immunity 100%. Is a statutory element, right? It's not constitutional, it's statutory, meaning it was passed. It is now considered law, case law, and some states. Boom, statutory. Your freedom of speech is constitutional. What they're saying is that this statute is now more powerful than the constitutional right that you have as a person who can talk and say what you want to say. This is an assault not only on free speech, but it is an assault on the very democracy that we live in. Now let's see what happens, because Brett, everybody should be outraged, brother. Not just those on the left, all right? This is chipping away at your constitutional rights. We got more on the other side, it's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
All right, welcome to Dr. Rashad Richard Indisputable. This is going to be quite interesting. I don't know if you can handle this much truth on any day of the week.
The unrest inside of the black community and communities that support them. It's because these cops are not held accountable.
You have a family calling 911, and that family is expecting help, not expecting their loved one to be killed by the very people they pay to protect and serve them.
Did you ever notice a cop that you work with call any black person the N-word or target people because they were black?
Nope.
But we disagree that somehow police officers are not also subject to the same systemic biases and racism as any other level of law enforcement.
It sounds like for everybody's need who wants to crucify the cops without looking at it.
No, crucify bad cops, brother.
Of
bad
course
cops.
We don't need the government to step into our lives mandating that we should be wearing a mask.
You think you putting on a mask, Trey, is government intrusion, but you don't think the government telling a woman what she can or cannot do with her body isn't government intrusion.
Where does life begin?
You want to go there? I can read it to you, bro.
You seem very well prepared. Certainly more.
Of course, why would I not be well prepared?
They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform throughout this country, so I won't stop, and you won't stop either.
I've been a fan of TYT, I believe, for the last 6 years.
5 years.
3 years now. 7 years.
4 years now.
2.5 years. I just started because she got me into it.
My boyfriend actually watches it every morning and every night, so I kind of just started watching it with him, and I love it. I mean, it's the only way that I find my news.
Looking through YouTube, looking for like, political shows that look cool.
I came across a very angry rant from Cenk, and that's when I knew.
So I was immediately in love with the show. And then I haven't missed a live show since then. 10 times a day, I watched the show in the morning. Whenever I had a bad day at high school, Young Turks.
Man, Cenk is just so blunt and honest, and I love the honesty, and there's no BS behind the news, and they just tell everything like it is.
There's nobody censoring them. There's nobody there to say, you can't do this, you can't say that. That feel of authenticity makes it seem like what they're saying is true.
I feel like I get the real story from the Young Turks.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT. I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
Welcome back, it's indisputable. Let me read some of these amazing viewer comments. All right, let's get it. TYT member Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Mickey C be on it, by the way. Both my parents and their families immigrated from Italy. I had a lot of uncles and older cousins. Yes, they hugged and kissed a lot, even the men. I never saw any of them touch or kiss a stranger on the street or an employee or slide their hands under the girls' blouses or to grope our breast or ask us about our sex lives. Using it as an Italian thing is BS. And we all know it's BS. He showed a video of people that did not complain. He was trying to make a thing that wasn't a thing. All right, let's go to Super Chat. Omar says the progressive movement gets richer and sweeter like wine with time. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Keep us informed with the facts, man. Hashtag you are the difference. And Omar, thank you for that, and so are you. Kelly O'Hara says, the doctor is in and I grin. I love these poems, yeah. Every day he spits truth like home runs called by Babe Ruth. His opponents are inscrutable. It's truly indisputable. Damn.
Really good.
I like that. I may have to requote that one. Somebody send that to my email. Shamira Hill says, I look forward to this show every day. Thank you, Dr. Truth. We love you and are your biggest fans in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Keep up the great work, hearts. Thank you for that, hearts back to you. Nicole Smith. This has nothing to do with politics, talking about Cuomo, nothing to do with politics, and everything to do with power, position, and entitlement. Keep your hands to yourself with everyone. You live in foul, dude. Yeah. Gypsy Mama says, denying it and gaslighting. That touching, in quotations, propaganda video. That was just a horrible response. That I don't understand it. New York Bill, Mad Money in the building says, I'm confused. Who the F is out here blue? We got blue people now? The world is crazy. That's right. See, that blue comes off. That's not a human rights issue. It's a profession. Yeah. Diallo says, so now cops have military equipment, qualified immunity, white supremacist infiltration, and can sue peaceful protesters. Shaking my head. Yeah. Yep. Twitch. Slim Thick Civic, maybe. I was at the legislative meeting, Nassau County. I cried when it passed 12-6. It's an assault on our ability to speak freely. A recovering pagan. Can't wait for the first lawsuit from a cop against the family of a person they murdered. Yeah, that's so sad, isn't it? Also, a lot of people are very thankful that we got the big homie Brett with us. Man, I'm glad I got Brett with us as well. Okay, police unions are now supporting criminal cops. I mean, like cops that have been charged with crimes against the government. Here it is. The Chicago chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police Union is standing up for a Chicago cop named Carol Cheswick, who was charged for his participation in the January 6th insurrection, because he now might lose his job. And by the way, he should lose his damn job after what he did. This was revealed in court filings a week after police officers who responded to the January 6th attack had publicly rebuked the union and other unions for their lack of support. So let's put up this cop. Let's put him up, okay? You see that? He took his own selfie. Now there's an emblem on his attire. He's wearing an official police shirt while committing criminal acts. That's what he's doing. Federal prosecutors say Cheswick took pictures of himself wearing a sweatshirt with the Chicago Police Department emblem while storming the US Capitol. CPD officer Carol Cheswick was charged in June with not one, but 2 misdemeanors after breaching the Capitol and the office of Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley. Prosecutors said in charging documents that Cheswick used the N-word when bragging to a friend about his actions at the Capitol that day, saying, N-word don't snitch. He hasn't yet entered a plea to the charges. He wasn't accused of violent crimes. So he was released by a judge and ordered not to have any guns in his home and to give up the firearm owner ID card that is required under state law in Illinois. So they said, hey, give up your guns and give up this ID to have these guns. This is going to be part of your bond, right? Okay, fair enough. He has to go to trial. He gets due process like anybody else. But in new court filings, Cheswick asked for permission to retake possession of the ID card because he says he needs to keep his job. Even though he was moved to desk duty and doesn't carry a gun. Wait a minute. So literally he's lying to the judge. He doesn't need the card. They put him on desk duty. But he wants this card back for what? So he can get his guns? Well, the judge said you can't have your guns right now. We got to wait till your due process happens. So literally you have a criminal cop who goes to the Capitol, gets charged, has a bond requirement pending the adjudication. He's still working. Okay. The vice president of the Chicago chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police Union sent a letter to the court, ladies and gentlemen, saying that the union would try to block Cheswick's possible firing and will, and I quote, start the grievance process to get Officer Cheswick into a pay status if he gets back his firearm ID card. Wow. It goes even deeper than that. Now, I want you to remember, these individuals do not represent the best of policing. They don't, they represent the worst. Daniel Gorman, another union official, also sent a letter after Cheswick asked for assistance. Magistrate Judge Robin Merriweather hasn't ruled yet on whether to return the ID card. When Capitol officers gave their emotional testimonies last week, they said they were disappointed in the National Union for not having yet condemned the insurrection and for not having done more to support them and the other responding officers on January 6th. Remember, the Capitol Police are police too. The Capitol Police are police. So literally, you have the union, police unions, taking the side of cops who have been charged with crimes and being antithetical and adversarial to cops who were victims of crimes. That's what's happening right now. That is your police union at work. Meanwhile, this week, Newsbroke officers haven't committed suicide. This is so sad. Put up their pictures. This is so sad. Gunther Hashida and Kyle DeFreitak, both of them committed suicide. That brings the number to 4. That brings the number to 4. Brett, what are your thoughts?
So when this stuff happens, you can just kind of hear the arguments that you'll get back. I try to see how people are arguing because I really get super depressed about stories like this, and I get really defeatist and try to see if I'm just not giving people the benefit of the doubt. But this guy, it's not that he was halfway down the mall when the rest of the protesters were in the Capitol building or rioters were in the Capitol building. This guy was in Jeff Merkley's office and he was not supposed to be. That is the thing that shines to me as the reason that we need to revisit what we're doing with this guy. We can't just give him, you aren't charged with a violent crime, just go on your way. No, this guy, and we're so desensitized to it. This guy breached the Capitol building during a riot. This police officer, and again, like they're not sending, whether if he is the best, he's certainly not the brightest. You can wear your police officer shirt. The reason that I would say, if I'm reading tea leaves there, is he wanted to make eye contact with police officers and get more of the reception that we saw where they were taking photographs with empathetic police officers and smiling and hugging. That was code. That's why there's a blue line in their flags. That's why they all stick together and say back the blue and blue lives matter. It's not because the law's on their side. It's because they're all on each other's side and they want that to be the law. Yeah. That's what's so horrifying about all of it.
Yeah, and what you see is culture eating policy alive. You can have the right policy on paper. You can have the right laws in writing. But if you have a culture that stands against the very policy structure, that culture in policing or anywhere else, that culture will eat that policy alive every day. Shifting. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free. Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life. Let's go. You guys suck. My parents are worth $2 million goddamn dollars. And you know what? Yeah. You know what? My grandpa is worth more than your Shut the f*** up. Ladies and gentlemen.
My. There's more. But let me give you a little bit of background. An out of control drunk male Karen, for this show we call them male Karens. I know there are many other names for them. He had to be duct taped to his seat on Frontier Airlines. He allegedly groped the breast of 2 flight attendants and took a swing at the third. The male Karen, his name is Maxwell Berry, 22 years of age. Let's put his picture up. That's him. Was arrested and charged with 3 misdemeanor counts of battery. That's it. Misdemeanors. While taped up, he managed to get out of his mouth a yell for help. Here's another video.
Oh, now you want some help.
Just make sure your seatbelts are fastened. That was the
Help has arrived, friend.
This shows you that duct tape really can fix anything. A few weeks before this happened, there was another incident where someone tried to open a window or get out the door in the aircraft. And hey, they had to duct tape that individual too. Seems to be a protocol here. Brett, what are your thoughts, man?
Is it weird to say I needed this story today? Like we got Nina Turner yesterday, like all this stuff. I needed this story today. Sir, if your family is so wealthy, what are you doing in row 25F on a Frontier Airlines flight? If you're riding that high, why are you not in one of those JetBlue numbers where it's all lay flat seats? You're not even at a bulkhead. You don't have economy plus, buddy. It seems like your family has had it up to here with you, just like the in-flight crew. I can't like it. So in the wake of this, I just love seeing him like that. It's what else are they supposed to do? Like in the wake of this, you look at the incident and it seems like the Frontier said that they have temporarily suspended the flight attendant who duct taped him because, or whatever it is, packing taped it, because that is not protocol. And I understand that, and they do it typically as a process pending investigation. So and they also, after making their initial statement, backtracked it because they saw the blowback and everything. I'm interested to see how that plays out. But in the meantime, I think we all need to listen to that little voice inside us that looks at it and says, like, what else are they supposed to do?
Right. So one of the statements from Frontier initially was, unfortunately, the proper policies for restraining a passenger were not followed. First of all, why is this not protocol? Like literally, this should be listed as here's what will happen if you decide to physically assault flight attendants, grope them, sexually harass them, put other passengers in danger, whatever. You will be duct taped if we don't have anything else. I'm cool with that being in the policy. You agree to it when you buy your ticket. Okay, so you're right. They were initially told, hey, this was not proper protocol. Frontier Airlines said in an initial statement on Tuesday that the flight attendants would be relieved of flying while it investigated, which drew sharp criticism from the Association of Flight Attendants. They stood up. That's the nation's largest flight attendants union. Later on Tuesday, the airline said that paid leave was in line with an event of this nature. They're calling it one of the worst disruptions of the year, according to the president. A drunk and irate passenger verbally, physically, and sexually assaulted multiple members of the crew. When he refused to comply after multiple attempts to de-escalate, the crew was forced to restrain the passenger with the tools available to them on board. We are supporting the crew. You're damn right. You should be supporting the crew. Just one more time, just put his picture up again. Let's do that for me.
It's just the face of a guy who realizes, yeah, I think I was a little too drunk. I want to know where he was going, what he was planning to do. They say he had 3 drinks and he turned into that. It's like, sir, I know it's an altitude.
Yeah.
But come
on. He was headed from Philadelphia to Miami. Didn't quite make it to his destination. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not going to want to lose, and he's going to run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Iadarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. 4th day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do? We cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let's get it. TYT member Rob says, this story breaks my heart. Yep. Jess B. Anti-Racist says, since when hasn't the cops union protected their fellow gang and blue members? It's always been a thing. Right. YouTube super chat. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon, I gotta say, Karens elicit the same feelings as cockroaches do when they start flying.
Oh, wow. That is the most visceral image I have ever.
I know.
Because you're like, cockroaches, got it. I got it. I know what the rest of this is gonna be. And then that same image when they start, do they fly? Is that like a palmetto bugs or something? It's like a,
yeah, very. Bree says, thank you for your voice, Dr. Richard. Keep holding these people accountable for their inhumanity. Thank you for that, and I shall. Peter Hamby, how ironic that the people who are supposed to protect and serve the people, they're willing to protect and serve a person who threw his reputation for Trump, okay? Mad Money in the building. I sent that drunk duct tape Karen to you and John yesterday. Glad y'all covered it. You know you done goofed if you're getting taped to your seat. I wonder at what point in that debacle did he say, damn, I effed up? Yeah.
Not well, he was taped to his seat and he's still yelling, help! Like
right. Okay. Let's go to Twitch. Resto Dragon says, gonna have to hold the entire police department responsible as he was wearing clothing that identified him as working for, therefore representing said police department. Yeah, I know. I mean, you went there with the whole company logo. Come on now. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a black male who is being charged after he was assaulted. Let me give you this background. It's amazing. A black man who alleged that a group of white men assaulted him and threatened to get a noose at an Indiana lake is facing misdemeanor trespass and felony battery charges more than a year after the event. Many of you remember this video. A video of the original incident went viral. Here's a reminder of that video.
Let him go, dude. Let him go. Let him go. Please, let him go. Please let him go. We're going to as soon as you let him go. I'm going to.
Get out of here.
Let him go.
Get your phone down here and go.
Let him
Shake
go.
your head at me and go. Get the out of here. You happy about this? You nappy-headed bitch, you happy about this?
What do you really want to call me?
You nappy-headed bitch.
What do you want to call me?
About this? You with your 5 white friends? You happy with your 5 white friends? You guys started all. You put it in your fucking film, bitch. Film it. Did you stupid fucking liberal? Bring it back. That's what you get.
The victim is being charged in this situation. Vox Booker, a local civil rights activist, said an order to get a noose was uttered but not captured on video. He said in a Facebook post after the incident that he had a minor concussion, abrasions, and some ripped out hair patches from the attack. Booker was charged over his involvement in the July 2020 assault at Lake Monroe, which was subject to an FBI investigation. 2 of the men who were involved in assaulting Booker were charged with battery last July. The Monroe County branch of the NAACP is demanding that the charges against Booker, the dam, be dropped, and that a special prosecutor who filed them be dropped and that a special prosecutor who filed them resigned, Sonoya Learcamp. So we remember this video. I remember when I first watched it, I said, damn, that brother has to be terrified. He got assaulted. We saw it. There was an investigation. But he gets the more serious of the charges. How do you explain this to me? He gets a felony charge. Brett, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's one of those things where the trespassing, sure. Like maybe there's some law that I don't understand that when I look at it, I'll be like, oh, that's the law that applies to this piece of land. But like it's one of those things about the law where you have to look at it and say, well, can we focus on the spirit of it for a second? The fact that this guy's being held against a tree by a guy and a group of friends of a guy who can't wait and feels like he's really winning. He's getting around the system by using the term he used in yelling at the victim here. You know, he thinks I'm not using the N-word, I'm using another N-word. So I'm not in trouble now. No one would know that when I just did what I did with my friends and the way I did it, that I'm a terrible racist, criminally so. I'm glad that guy's facing charges, but again, like, where are the people that are talking about stand your ground laws if that's what applies? Like to come back and say, well, he fought, if it is the case that he was in a physical altercation, maybe he was fighting back. And this is the beginning, like there's another podcast out there that Barry Weiss, who coined the term intellectual dark web or whatever, is passing around about the Audubon Society guy and the Karen in the park. And they're trying to say, well, let's pay attention to what her day was like when she said on the police, I'm being attacked when she wasn't. There's this weird thing where it's a combination of contrarianism and just some weird jujitsu of view seeking that allows them to just annoy you in that really terrible way that belittles the very real social justice issues that are injustice issues that are playing out before our very eyes. And they're like, you do not need to see its identification. This is not the racism you're looking for. Sucks.
Very well said. Very well said. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's advocating for people to kill other people who simply knock on your door. Let me just go to the first video.
And one more thing on that, you lucky people here in Alabama might get a knock on your door because I hear Alabama might be one of the most unvaccinated states in the nation. Well, Joe Biden wants to come talk to you guys.
You're damn right. Somebody needs to talk to you. You all are celebrating being the most unvaccinated state. That's a celebration for you. You give that a round of applause. While a woman who is vaccinated, I don't give a damn what she says. Oh, that's my personal health business. I don't disclose. She's vaccinated. Believe it. She got the shot. And she wants you to applaud not being vaccinated. And then she wants you to kill somebody if they knock on your door to ask, hey, would you like a shot? Would you like the vaccine? Here's the next video.
He's gonna be sending one of his police state friends to your front door to knock on the door, take down your name, your address, your family members' names, your phone numbers, your cell phone numbers, probably ask for your social security number and whether you've taken the vaccine or not. Yeah, well, what they don't know is in the South, we all love our Second Amendment rights. And we're not real big on strangers showing up on our front door, are we?
Let me say this first. If this becomes a government program and you do knock on doors, I encourage no black person to do this in Alabama. None. Think about this now. She's advocating people grabbing their guns if somebody just knocks on their door and has a question about COVID. You don't have to answer it. You're not compelled. You're not mandated. Now, obviously, she's mixing a whole lot of lies in her commentary. And by the way, the government is well aware of your address. By the way, I don't know if she knows that, but they do know where you live. Here's more.
Dr. Tony Fauci funded with your tax dollars. He funded it in the Wuhan lab, didn't he? He funded COVID-19.
This is so damn dangerous. She's now saying that Dr. Fauci funded COVID-19. She's placing the blame of hundreds of thousands of deaths at the feet of Fauci. You don't think that's going to incite people who really believe this rhetoric from this charlatan? You don't think this is going to make people angry beyond belief who believe in this simpleton? There's more.
So this man sent your tax dollars, my tax dollars, through a third party to the Wuhan lab, where the gain of function was used to take a virus that was spread between animals, and it was changed into a virus that spread between humans all over the world, has gotten people sick, and they're dying. They died and they're still dying.
Listen, it is fair to say that she wants people to get killed. And I say that I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It is completely fair to say that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene wants people to get killed. Brett, what are your thoughts about this?
There's a lot going on here, but a lot of it is like this weird vigilante murder porn. They have this fantasy that the state is gonna come do that. And if the state does that, I think that's bad. If the state comes and asks for your social security, no one's proposing that.
Right.
And then also, which is it? Like, is this a deadly virus or not, Marjorie? Like, you want credit for Fauci creating a monster, but at every other turn when it's convenient for you, you downplay the virus. Period. Don't get a vaccine. None of it. She wants to play it all ways, no matter what happens if it contradicts itself. That's what I find wildly frustrating. And then also that gain of function stuff, that's based on something that Rand Paul mentioned erroneously. And while there is funding somewhere up the chain that may have made its way to a lab, like, what is the point of that? There's no other point of it. If they're gonna ignore every person who is an actual medical expert, then why do we listen to them? Because they're not medical experts. Rand Paul's an expert, technically, as a doctor, and even he's wrong.
Yep. All right. My dear brother, I appreciate you being with me today on Indisputable. How can people check you out, follow you?
We got Happy Half Hour coming up this evening, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/TYT. And follow me at Brett Ehrlich and watch all the shows. You know what I mean? Just watch all the shows.
Watch them all. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, we got more. Stick and stay.
You know, old school was pitched to me from Jake. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. And there's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I heard of it. I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough. Easily. See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high. Snoogans.
Snoochie Boochies. And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial. And old school with the old folks. Good.
John, come back.
Field goal here. It's time to switch to beer.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like...
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh.
Wow.
This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
What's happening? Welcome back. I got a lot of comments to read. Let me try to get to as many as possible. TYT member Eric the Red says, at least she's admitting that COVID is deadly, but in a few days she'll be saying it's no big deal, no doubt. Exactly. Jojo H, how come Fauci doesn't sue people like Marjorie Taylor Cheese for her lies about him? Because he's a public figure and the bar is set very high for slander and libel, but he probably should do it anyway. YouTube super chat. Ben says corruption, they knew they could get away with it. Self-defense all the way. Orlando, she is just like Donald Trump. The two of them both like to incite confusion and controversy. Yeah. Twitch, airship right. And the white guy who assaulted the camera holder twice? Question mark. Mike Boy raps. You can see how racism is generational because he's willing to do this in front of his daughter. They always are. No shame with them. Soapman88, Fauci has had a security detail for a long while now. Sad. And he's gonna have to keep it. As a matter of fact, I hope he does beef it up. But unfortunate, but real. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna do something a little different today. I'm giving you a throwback bullpen. Sit back and enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the bullpen. The man bold enough to step into the bullpen today is none other than nationally recognized Republican strategist Ash Wright. Ash Wright's background includes senior political advisor to Commissioner George P. Bush, deputy director of government relations, Texas General Land Office, and political director of the Republican Party of Texas. Him and I actually have something in common. There was a time in my life, Mr. Wright, where I was the political director for the Georgia Democratic Party some time ago. So I understand the party politics, which in a state can be quite chaotic, right?
That's right, for sure.
All right, so based on some of the commentary I've seen and some of the posts you have made, you are a big Second Amendment guy, okay? You are a guns guy. And I don't want to presume your point of view before we get into our discussion. So let me ask you, what do you feel, or how do you feel the Second Amendment connects to the everyday American, and why is it so important to you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, to me, the Second Amendment is something that I value, frankly, because someone's trying to take it away from me, if that makes sense, right? So I am, like you said, I'm a big gun guy. I live in rural Texas. I'm a hunter, fisherman. That's just kind of who I am. I have lots of guns, right? I don't own any machine guns or military grade weapons, but I am a big gun, and I like to fight for people's right to own those guns. And frankly, it's just something that I feel like that Americans should have the right to own, because someone's trying to take them away from us. So if the government doesn't want me to own guns, then that tells me that we need to have the ability to own guns, if that makes sense. And so that's part of why I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment, and why I'm going to fight staunchly for Americans' rights to continue that.
Let me tell you why that doesn't make sense to me. Every right comes with a level of responsibility. There is no right completely unchecked. Even former Justice Scalia talked about how these rights must carry common sense responsibility and restrictions. So let's talk about the freedom of speech. Well, you have the right to say what you want to say without the government limiting that right. But if you say things that infringe on my right to life and liberty, if you say fire in a crowded building and there is no fire in that crowded building, well, you can actually be charged with a crime. The government can say, no. You cannot use your speech to create physical harm to other people. That's not considered speech control, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, look, you're absolutely right, and I know you didn't think you were going to hear that today, right? But I think the premise of that is correct. But at the same time, I think, look, we already have that, right? Like, sensible Americans that are owning guns are already abiding by the laws, the same laws that we abide by with free speech, like you're talking about. We don't go into buildings and yell fire. We also go down and get background checks when we buy guns. We get the same background checks, whether it's at a gun show or whether you're buying them down at your local gun shop. I mean, I don't carry my gun without a concealed carry license if it's against the law to carry on any premise, or in states where they have stricter gun laws. And so we're already abiding by those same things, just like we are in the First Amendment. And so, but continuing to add to that, like over and over and over, like right now with them trying to add 10-day waiting periods for background checks, or ban these military grade weapons without any like actual formal description of what a military grade weapon is where I think the average American has a problem with this. And so it's kind of, in fact, we've been dealing with this as a country all the way back into the 90s. And that was part of the problem when Bill Clinton passed his ban on assault weapons, was that there was no real definition of what an assault weapon is. And that's essentially what we're going back to today. But that would kind of be my question back to you, which would be, I understand your premise of that, but then what is your take on, and where do you think that line is drawn in the sand between my right to own a gun versus also my right to own a gun in a law-abiding manner?
Let me put it to you this way. Our right to own a gun is not our right to own a bazooka. And you understand the point that I'm making. It's the carnage of the weaponry that is called into question. And if you want to look at it technically, knives are considered arms as well. But we've had Supreme Court decisions to kind of split the hairs on what a weapon or what an arms is. But let me disagree with you on the sentiment that most Americans are actually on your side as it relates to this. Pew Research did a poll, brother. And Pew Research conducted this poll and found that 60% of Americans say that gun laws should be tougher. That was up from 57% from last year and 52% from 2017. So as the years progress, more Americans are saying we now need tougher gun laws. Here's another stat, and this is in your state of Texas. And Texas has now passed one of the most, in my opinion, insane gun laws I have ever seen. But let's talk about Texas. 81% of Texans, including 79% of gun-owning households and 79% of Republicans, support requiring a permit to carry a handgun in Texas. However, they just passed a law expressing the exact opposite, or just presented a law expressing the exact opposite of the sentiment of their actual Texans. Here's another stat: 78% of Texans, including 78% of gun-owning households and 73% of Republicans, support requiring all gun buyers, even in a private gun deal, must submit to a criminal background check. So, brother, you are out of touch with not only the sentiment of the country, but the sentiment of your own state. So how is it that Texas can get away with proposing a law that's contrary to the expression of their political base and their citizens?
Well, I haven't seen that exact poll, so I can't speak directly to that number, and I'll look it up after we get off. But look, I've seen polling on the other end, and part of the reason why. Well,
brother, do me a favor. Let me say this. I want you to cite the polling on the other side that you've seen.
I have seen internal campaign polling that shows that. I'm not. I mean, I'm under NDAs and contracts. I'm not at liberty to say on air.
Top secret. Wait. Top secret polling.
Well, I wouldn't call it top secret.
Well, if you can't tell me where the polling came from,
the NRA,
who did the polling, and what the polling
has put
says.
out a lot of statistics and studies that say most Americans, most Texans, and I believe most Americans who own guns do not support a right to have to go through more background checks. I mean, we already have criminal background checks for every single person that buys a gun. Every time I go down and purchase a firearm, I go through a criminal background check. Every time, if I want to apply for a CHL or a concealed handgun license, I go through a criminal background check. I mean, these laws aren't. I mean, what we do as a country is we mush the data and we kind of make it sound like some individual can just wake up tomorrow morning and go down and buy
in some cases, sir,
that's just not simply the case.
In all due respect, CNN just did a story where they followed a teenager to a gun show in one of the states that had the gun show loophole, where a background check and an ID was not required to purchase from a gun show through a private dealer. That is a problem, because it sounds like you're saying that you go through the background checks, and I assume that you would be okay if that was a uniform national law. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I already do that every day. Look, I agree. We need background checks. We need to be able to know people's mental health. We need to, if you have been in federal prison, if you are, committing other crimes. I mean, we do need to know that for gun owners. I'm not arguing that point. What I'm arguing is that we already do that. Now, there may be some. No,
not everyone. Not everyone.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. There may be a few instances where we don't do that, and those people should be held accountable for that. But increasing it throughout, like increasing regulation on me, on the law-abiding citizen, isn't going to ever prevent 100% of people going down and breaking the law and selling firearms illegally. And that's to my point, is that we're regulating the people that are already following the regulations.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I got to get to it. I don't want to get bogged down on one point. Are you in agreement with the Texas legislation, which says you do not have to possess a permit to carry a gun? Are you for that legislation or against it?
Correct. I mean, look, yes, because when you go down and purchase a firearm, you're already going through the checks that say you're allowed to own this firearm. So there shouldn't have to be an additional permit to carry this. Now, I don't personally carry a gun on me. It's not a law that I'm going to take to take a use of. But I do think that we should have the right to do that, and I think that makes our citizens safer. It allows them to protect themselves, and that's something that we need, frankly, across the whole country.
So let me ask you this question, because I find it quite ironic, brother, that you will say you're okay with Texas having this proposed legislation to where a citizen in Texas does not need a permit to carry a gun. Let me ask you this: do you think you need a license to drive a car?
Yes.
Do you think you need a license to get married? It's called a marriage license.
I mean, yes. I mean, there is a marriage license, but I think a marriage is ordained by God, not by the state. So I guess, technically, I guess I would say I don't believe you have to have a marriage license.
Really
but I do say, but look, the difference but look, here's the difference, right? I do think you need a license to drive a car, right? I need to go through a background check to drive a gun or to buy a gun. The difference is though, is that we don't ban cars, or we don't strengthen and go through more regulation for 16-year-olds to drive cars, even though that's actually not true. Number of people drive from like drunk driving or die from drunk driving, et cetera.
No, sir.
I mean,
that's not true. What you're saying is not true.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Okay,
cars don't drive drunk. People drive drunk.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So no, it doesn't make sense. Number one, there are restrictions on how 16-year-olds can use a car. In most states, 16-year-olds cannot have full driving access without having an adult driver in the vehicle. So you're wrong on that. 16-year-olds are restricted and regulated. Number two, manufacturers of cars are restricted on the kind of car they can actually promote for sale. There are certain cars that if they don't have a certain preset speed limit, and if they have particular elements added to the car, they are no longer street ready. They cannot be driven as a regular car. So there are common sense restrictions for cars. There are common sense
restrictions for guns as well, right? Like I can't go down to my local gun shop and buy a machine gun today. I would have to have a.
But you can make one.
A license, a federal.
You can make. But think about this. You can make a machine gun. Why is that not regulated? Why can't we just say, listen, if you can't buy it, right? Let's make it illegal to make one. Let's not allow that loophole to stand.
Well, it's illegal to own one without the proper licensing. So even if you build it, it doesn't negate the fact that
you have to register it. You have to register it with ATF. But still, think about the common sense, brother. I think you're a smart guy. So let me go back to the foundation principle that I'm trying to make here. If it's illegal to buy it and it's illegal to own it, why is it not illegal to make it and then illegal to own it? Think about it this way. If it's illegal to have narcotics and it's illegal to use narcotics, why would it all of a sudden become legal if you made the narcotic yourself?
Well, but look, I get what you're saying. I think we're coming to the same point, which is we don't need to regulate. I mean, you can't go out and just purchase, for example, bump stocks or a lot of things that it takes to build these guns. I mean, you make it sound like anyone can just drive down to the local gun store and buy enough guns to create a machine gun, and that's really, frankly, just not the truth. And so it already is illegal and regulated extremely throughout the process. And once you build it, it's illegal to own it without having it regulated. So I mean, it's like we're just tacking on laws to enforce laws that we already have. And if the individual is going to build a gun and not go down and license it, they're going to do that whether we make it illegal to buy the gun or not.
Yeah, but you can't make that as your argument, because if you say, well, let's not pass a common sense law because individuals will still break the law, that means you need to get rid of all of your laws. Get rid of murder, get rid of assault, get rid of aggravated assault, get rid of all of it, because there are people that will still violate the law even with laws on the books. That's the sense that you're making when you say things people are still going to violate the law.
Where we disagree is that it's a common sense law, because a common sense law would regulate something that isn't done by the average. The average citizen can't do this anyways. And so it's not common sense because we can't, it doesn't make any possible sense, since the average citizen cannot go down and build their own machine gun without licenses to buy parts to those guns.
No, sir. Look, that argument doesn't work here.
You can go down and buy build semi-automatic guns, but you have to be licensed to buy certain.
Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something, brother. Laws are not actually made based on what the average citizen will do. Let's start there, because the average citizen will never commit murder. But that doesn't mean we do not have murder laws on the books. So you're right, the average citizen will not make a machine gun, but that is not the prerequisite for a law on the books. It never has been, and it should not be in this context. Do you not agree?
I mean, I agree with the sentiment that you're saying, but I don't think that should apply to gun law, to just creating more and more gun laws, which in turn makes it harder for individuals that are law-abiding citizens to own guns. I mean, what we're doing is we create bills where we say, okay, well, you cannot build a gun, but then we tack on, well, you also can't own a military-grade weapon, but we don't define what military-grade weapon means.
Well, how do you define it?
I would say that a military grade weapon is a weapon that can create mass destruction and is automatic. But that also doesn't mean that the average citizen shouldn't be able to own a semi-automatic. For example, my shotgun is a semi-automatic, which is not.
How many bullets does it shoot, brother?
It takes 3 rounds at a time.
Okay, and 3 rounds at a time.
And then I have to reload to get.
Gotcha. And what do you use that gun for?
Hunting.
Now let me just say this, man. I'm not a hunter, but brother, if you gotta have a gun like that to shoot something, you may be in the wrong hobby. It takes that many bullets to shoot something?
A bird, yes it does. You should come to Texas and hunt with me sometime.
Let me tell you something. Ain't no way in the hell I'm coming to Texas with you and a gun, brother. That's just not gonna happen. I promise you that. That's the last thing I want to do with my life.
I live in a very safe community and we all own guns.
That's what that last Karen said too, a very safe community, right? Let me move to this question about arming for the government, right? Because the original context of the Constitution said this is a well-regulated militia, right? An armed militia for the sake of taking arms against the United States government. We recently had a statement that came from Laura Trump. And I want you to answer this question for me. Laura Trump said on Fox News a couple of days ago that individuals on the border should basically take matters into their own hands. They need to grab their guns, take matters into their own hands. Now, I want to remind you, undocumented workers aren't coming to America to kill Americans at the border. They're trying to avoid Americans. They're trying to get into the country. But for Laura Trump to say something like this on a major cable news station, that American citizens may need to grab their guns and take matters into their own hands because she may disagree with the immigration policy, don't you think that's just going too far?
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, yeah, it is going too far. I go down to the border in South Texas all the time. Frankly, those are great communities. They're very safe. There is no need for anyone to take up arms in South Texas. There's no need for anyone to take up arms in El Paso or frankly anywhere along the Texas border. I believe that's the exact same case in Arizona and California. So yeah, I think, look, that is probably, I didn't hear the comments, but it sounds like it's pandering. And that's really, frankly, that's part of what is wrong with the gun debate is we need to get back to, in your words, common sense and talk about this. I'm trying to think of the word. I'm drawing a blank on the word, but using South Texas or the border in Texas to justify taking up arms, frankly, just isn't right. And frankly, it does the injustice of those communities. It does an injustice for those communities because those communities are just as safe as I am here in Abilene, Texas, or anywhere else in the state of Texas, frankly, and in most cases safer.
And Ash, that's what I need you to do, brother. The way you just articulated the reality that statements like that simply pander rather than promote a common sense solution or negotiation. You have to call out those on the right. You are in a position as a leader in the Republican Party to call out the rhetoric that's on the right. And believe me, I get it. I know it's not easy. I call out rhetoric on the right and the left. I'm okay with giving it to them both ways, right? You have to be one of those individuals because what you've said on my show, even though I disagree with most of it, I actually agree with some of it. That's a start. That is a start.
That's right.
So
absolutely.
I highly encourage you, man. Hold them accountable to the ridiculousness. Make sure that you say what you want to say to them, just like you said on this program. Don't pander yourself, brother. Ash, I appreciate you being.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a great talk.
Thank you.